If we go, play nice today, and then we'll do one of these, do one of these, and then we will say, Dr. Samantha English. Thank you for coming. What an honor. We're on.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay.
Pain-free. So listen, I have so much I wanted to. For those that don't know,
okay,
the Dr. Samantha English.
Mm-hmm. You can call me Sam.
Can I? I don't like calling you Doc.
Always call me Doc.
Knowing you, what's it been? 5+? Less than 10, more than 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Met you. You were you're from Canada.
Yes. Born and raised and trained.
Then you were living here for a hot minute. And that's where we linked up. You were a veterinarian.
Yes.
Still are.
But I had to think hard about how we met before I came.
The strip club.
We met at CrossFit.
No, you used to live at, was it CrossFit?
Yeah.
You were living at Adams. I thought Adam was the segue.
He was my neighbor. But I think that we realized that we both knew Adam when you joined CrossFit for 10 minutes.
Oh. Yeah, 9 minutes and 45 seconds.
I think that's the link.
And then that's when I had to fall in love with Adam because I was broken.
Yep.
And proximity. But then you were his neighbor.
Yeah,
for those that are listening, you're about to be entertained because you are like a Renaissance woman. You are everywhere. I remember you shadow my traveling, and I try to travel, and you are. So we're going to get into it. We'll get chronological. But for those that are listening, enjoy the show. You are a very dear friend to us. We love you very much.
I love you guys too. And I miss you.
Yeah, we miss you too. Like for those that don't know as well, I haven't seen you. We spent some years together. You had let's take it from this first step where I leave off. And then we're going to go backwards because I want to know your like history. But for those that knew Samantha English in Flagler Beach.
Yes, I lived here for almost 10 years.
And then you left us.
Yes, I left.
For Belize.
Yeah, just before Christmas in 2015.
Boom. It's that long ago.
Yep.
Wow. You leave for Belize and you were doing at that point, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much everywhere you go, you are somehow affiliated with a veterinarian clinic or you're donating your time, like something to that capacity. Right? Because
yes.
Yeah.
I'm not associated with any group though. I'm just on my own.
No, I know that.
Some places are for very little money, some for normal money, and some for volunteer.
Normal money. Now you get to Belize. Was it a year stint you did? Okay. Mm-hmm. And once again, that was just you.
Yes.
You're there. This is pre-Mick too.
No, we met that year.
That year was Mick?
Yep. And we met on vacation in China.
Oh.
And then we had like a long distance relationship. That's why he was never in Flagler Beach till the very end. Then he moved to Belize with me.
Aha.
At the end of the year.
Mick's her sexy man for those that are listening.
Yeah, and he's Australian.
He's awesome. And that's where I met. I mean, you came home for a visit.
Yeah, I came home for a visit.
What's your pup, Cyrano? Cheerios?
Yeah, Cheerios. There actually is a little boy who calls him Cheerios. Cyrano.
Cyrano.
He lives in St. Augustine
He's the one in the photo today.
Yes, because I visited him since I've been here visiting this time.
And then I met him, I think at like a Thanksgiving extravaganza.
Mick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to your Thanksgiving with family.
Yeah. And I was like, I think I had a bigger crush on him than you did.
He's not watching right now because he's out diving.
Okay, well, that's what I figured.
Usual.
He's like,
so we can say whatever we want.
Cave diving, amazing, traveling
guy,
another well-rounded individual.
Yes.
So now you from Belize, let's get there because that's where I'm just so excited. Belize, where did we go?
After I finished my year,
after your stint
to Qatar in the Middle East. You can pronounce it however you like, because that's going to come up in just a second.
So you say Qatar, I say Qatar.
Yeah, but you can say Qatar, or you can say Qatar, or you can say Qatar. Depends if you're American, and then it depends.
What do we say?
Us can say it the way that they would say it.
Because
they would say it in Arabic. So
okay.
It's all just.
It's crazy.
English translations.
So they were there. And that was 2 years?
Then we moved there for 2 1/3 years after Belize.
Amazing.
But this was like a regular, normal, real.
Normal money.
Job for a regular salary.
Right. And that was 2 years it's gone by already?
More, yeah.
More? And he went with you?
Yeah, and he worked there too.
Amazing.
He worked in helping to build the rail system because the World Cup is coming there in 2022.
That's what I hear.
Everyone will know of them once that comes, I'm
Right.
sure. So he was working in environmental engineering there.
Amazing. So I want to let's hover there for a minute. You leave. I know you don't. It takes a lot probably to freak you out because you get around a lot. How was that like getting there? Was it obviously there's no like the things that we know from the state-based stuff, the cliche stuff, the no alcohol,
yes,
the religion, this. Was it hard to fit in, or were you kind of like you found your rhythm quickly? I mean, everything from the weather to the time difference to this. Like, did you kind of?
I had never been to the Middle East, but I had been on vacation once to an Arabic country, to Morocco, which is really not the same culture at all.
Okay.
I had been to the Dubai airport, and that's it.
Okay.
But I mean, I went for the same reasons most people go, which is tax-free income and kind of a harebrained way of making enough money to move on from living in Belize, where if you knew me when I lived here, I sold all my stuff.
Yes, you did.
Desperately sold anything that was worth $1, and had a fundraiser so that I could go do this year in Belize, which wasn't voluntary. There was still a paycheck, like a minimum wage paycheck.
Okay.
So it was enough to exist and survive, but not enough to then move to a new country and start a new life.
Right.
So I just thought, hey, maybe we could move to the Middle East and we could save up our money, and then I would be able to move on to somewhere else after that.
That was one of the appealing factors, the income, the
adventure and the money is usually the reason that most people would go.
How does that work though? So once you're there did you have to claim residency, or you have to have an address? You have to be getting paid from an entity within?
Yeah, I'm a non-resident of Canada, and Canadians don't pay taxes on international income.
Interesting.
We're different. Okay. Many countries don't, but Americans do.
Okay.
So if I'm a non-resident,
so it wouldn't apply to me.
No, you would have to pay American taxes while living there, but your employer would probably adjust accordingly.
Okay.
But so if you work there, then you have to become a resident, but there's no such thing as a long-term resident. They just started that maybe a year ago, but it's really rare. They only award like a handful a year. Okay. So basically, no matter how long you live there, if you're born in Qatar, it doesn't matter. When you're done, you're out.
Goodbye.
Because they have a very small community. They have only 300,000 locals and 2.3 million expats.
Okay.
So their entire country's population is made up of just 300,000 Qatari people.
Now, when you're there, like I said, knowing you, I know that you do you very well. So I'm sure. But was it hard to kind of? Was it? Like I said, this is where it is. Were you sad that I didn't go to dinner, by the way? I wanted to go, but this was.
I know. I was like, Camille, where's Chenzo? And she's like, he doesn't want to hear your stories until you get.
I would have asked everything I want to ask now. So
it's very hot.
Yeah,
and imagine. The first year I arrived at the mid of January, but I didn't appreciate how cool it was at the time because it was sort of moderate at that time.
When did you get there? What month?
January.
Okay.
And it does have a winter. But I arrived there from a month in Canada visiting my mom.
I remember that.
So I felt like it was warm, but I didn't really appreciate how hot it was going to get.
Right.
Then I felt like summer hit in like April, but I still had no appreciation for how hot it was actually going to get. And then come like May.
Good night.
Yeah, it can definitely be up to like 50 Celsius, which is about 130 Fahrenheit, like day after day after day, and everything is just air conditioned, and you just basically run from one spot to another.
Can you give me a normal day in Samantha English's commute? Like, are you and like even what you were wearing?
But you can't wear shorts.
Can't wear shorts.
No,
so
I haven't worn shorts in years.
You're not supposed to wear shorts, but you can.
Well, no, you can wear shorts in my compound.
What if I walked out with my shorts?
No. No. Men can wear shorts, but that is too short.
Would I get like stoned or something?
No, someone would probably embarrass you. And maybe make a comment like in public. And if you tried to go in the mall, the security guard would not let you in.
Wow.
No. Now, if you were a man wearing shorts like longer, like towards the knee, no one would say anything.
Okay.
If you're a lady, then you need to basically cover to the knee, like just below the knee.
Okay.
And this shirt, I've worn this shirt before in public and then realized maybe I shouldn't, but it really needs to like cover
So
the
how do you know? You just
shoulder.
know because of the social dynamics. Like you're walking around, you sit down at a restaurant, there's kind of looks like,
Yeah, or
at
at the mall. If you go to a restaurant in like a 5-star restaurant, hotel, that's where you would be able to also drink. So then there would be no real rules about what you wore, except you have to remember you have to get there and get home. So if you had a traffic car problem, you don't want to be broken down on the freeway in a mini skirt, very likely.
In 150-degree weather.
Yeah, you need to have like your emergency shawl or emergency sweater in the car all the time. But you could wear anything you want in a place where it's more expat populated.
Okay.
So fancy hotel, nice restaurant with alcohol.
Contrary to popular belief, you can find some alcohol.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can drink at home.
Okay.
There's one liquor store for the whole country, and it's about 10 minutes from our house. You have to have a license. You have to apply for a license to buy alcohol.
As a consumer, not as a vendor.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. And they changed the rules a little bit while we were there, but basically you can only spend a percentage of your income on alcohol. It's quite high. I could never drink that much, but you can't just go and blow your paycheck sort of thing.
This is so fascinating.
And that's also where you buy pork. So you can buy pork at the liquor store, and you can eat that and drink that at home, basically to your heart's desire. In public, though, you would never be able to buy alcohol at a normal restaurant, like even ones that are chains that would have it here.
Normally.
Yeah, if you went somewhere like Chili's here, you would be able to get booze.
Right.
There, no such thing. If you went to a fancy restaurant like at the Ritz or at the W or somewhere like that, at a fancy hotel, then they're all going to serve alcohol, but they're never going to serve pork. The only chance to have pork is at home for a exorbitant price from the store.
That probably didn't affect you too negatively, though. I don't think of my daily routine, if like you can't have pork,
then you're disappointed.
Yeah, I don't think really. I would.
We would occasionally get a little bit from the door.
Yeah, I don't think I would be like. And it's crazy. I'm sure I wouldn't realize how much affected I would be by not having the alcohol. Probably more like the wine scene. I would be, that would bother me if I couldn't have a glass of wine here or there at a generic restaurant. But I hear, is it safe to say, from what I understand, the Americanized restaurant businesses are blowing up in the Middle East.
Very popular.
Yeah. Like, and they're now tipping the point where we were in like the early 80s, mid 80s, where like obesity and like health problems are now starting to affect them because they're like taking their family out to Hardee's, those types of restaurants.
That's exactly.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, they're definitely in the top 10 of obesity lists. Many of those countries, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. I don't know about Saudi. Saudi never really reveals much. But I think that's because they're all just suddenly getting into all of those places. Right. And you don't notice it as much looking because people aren't in form-fitting clothing. Even one thing that really surprised me there, besides that it was really hot, I'm not really fussed about the pork and the alcohol part. That wasn't really like a hugely big deal. Or the dressing part, because it wasn't really that strict. I mean, just don't wear shorts is pretty much no tank tops in public. I could still wear what I wanted at the gym. At the CrossFit gym, and I could still run in what I wanted at home. But if I went to the park to run, I had to wear like capri length tights and wear like a tight t-shirt that sort of covered. Right. I still raced in short shorts and a tank top in an actual like approved wearing a bib race. Okay. Nobody would ever bother or say anything in that case. But one of the things that surprised me is that men very often wear their national costume too. And so I kind of thought the men wearing the white robes, and which is called a thobe, and the white veil and the black crown on the TV, I thought that was just for show for governmental things and official visits and that kind of thing. But men actually wear that all the time.
Pretty regularly?
Yeah. Some men don't. Some men wear Western clothes, but lots of local men wear
just to like go out to the
just
store,
to come to the vet, just to go to the grocery store. So they and their wives are often both wearing their more traditional outfits.
Interesting.
Women Qatari women are almost always, I've never met a woman who is from there that wasn't dressed in a black abaya. They all cover their head, but you can usually tell who's Muslim local and who's Muslim from somewhere else, because the local ladies are more into black. Sometimes they embellish with
Like
crystals.
their apparel?
Yeah, their robe sometimes has fancy embroidering or fancy crystals on it, but it's really rare that there would be a color on it, not that often.
Okay.
And their headscarf would usually not be colored or patterned either. And most ladies there will show their face. Only a few will just show their eyes.
Okay.
Very, very few will not show their face at all. And if they came into the clinic with their pet, once they would be in the room with me, they would definitely, if they weren't showing their face at all, they would lift it off.
Oh, interesting.
So that we could.
It's like a sign of maybe being just
And I'm a lady.
cordial. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. What
The
you're
rules
saying.
are a little bit different. If
Did
you're
you
a
notice?
man.
I find this fascinating. Thank you for sharing this, because we won't hover too long on it. But I enjoyed learning about other cultures and places that I haven't been. Did you find it to be overall? Were you kind of, lack of better words, like accepted, or was there? Did you feel like a little bit of hesitation on the behalf because you were, or was there? Did you feel the love, so to speak, or was it a little?
It just takes a little bit to break through.
Okay.
In public, no, but at work, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, I definitely got to ask lots of my questions about their culture, being Muslim in general.
Right.
I went on mosque tours. I would ask my clients, even some men, once I got to know them a little bit better, of just questions about going to mosque, praying, when you pray, how you pray,
Right.
why you're wearing that in the winter, why you're wearing that in the summer,
Right.
all of those kind of questions. And I definitely had local ladies like hug me and cry when I left.
Really?
So,
well, you're sincere about it. There's a way of going about it, but there's always the stereotypes of like, well, don't go to there, or don't do that, or don't do, even if it's something really easy, like don't go to Costa Rica, they're going to kill you. It's like, no, it's not like that. But
it's very safe.
Yeah. Did you
it's
feel
not really what what the news makes everything out to be? Then they're fighting with the neighbors also. So there's like a blockade between them and Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is our only land border. So because it's like a little tiny peninsula sticking out of the side of Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So on our 4th month there, we just woke up in the morning and all of a sudden we're in a fight with 4 or 5 other neighboring countries, in a blockade with them. They've all ganged up on us, and the border is closed. No more food is coming by land, which is how we used to get all of our food. June 2 years ago, it started. It hasn't ended. So for like a day, I thought,
what am I doing here?
Yeah, I sent all my money out of the country.
Right.
I put money in my underwear drawer.
Right.
And I called my parents or messaged them, because calling is nearly impossible. And I just sat tight and went to work and hoped that everything would be okay and nobody would invade and that we wouldn't have to run.
Right.
And then nothing happened.
So technically right now it's going on, but
yeah, it just affected flights. Airlines that would come into the country, not being able to fly to any of those countries directly. So we didn't visit any of those countries in the end because of having to take indirect flights going around.
Right.
We would have to, depending on where we did fly to, because we went on a lot of trips while we lived there, but it would take longer to get places because we couldn't fly over any of their airspaces.
Wow.
I mean, we would have to fly up and over Iran, which people, when you say that, people get nervous just to begin with.
Right.
But we were allowed to fly over their country and not allowed to fly over other countries.
Being so close to that country, on a tangent, do you think that shit's going on? It's real? Like, you really, you think we should be, I don't know. Did you have, did you hear a lot of that going on? You're way closer, obviously, to the country than we were, but we're hearing all this stuff going on in the news now that we're pretty much on the brink of probably going to war with them.
Living there, other than seeing some of the news, you maybe don't get exposed to as much American news media. Okay.
Which is good.
In some ways, I guess.
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
But
I can't stand it.
It's a nice break, I guess, that's part of the reason why I decided I had enough time here, at least for a little while, was another American election was coming. And
yeah, you were leaving right before that.
Yeah, and there weren't any candidates yet. So it had nothing to do with any specific party or people. Just even as an outsider living here, it is difficult to go through the American news cycle during a pre-election day after day after day.
I think it's just miserable to go through it in general. It's just too much. I think it can affect you rather negatively. And honestly, at this point, those that are educated enough, I don't think 99% of it's even true. But when you were there, didn't you?
And I didn't treat any camels. Everyone always asks
Really?
me if I'm like a horse and camel vet, but I'm just a dogging.
Are they loving of their aminals?
Yeah, there's a lot of local clients, but then there's a lot of expat people like me living there for work, and then they have pets with them. So generally, Arabs prefer to have a cat.
Oh, they're cat peoples. When you were there, didn't you bounce around a lot too, though? You went like to once you were there, didn't you go? Did you do the Egypt? I forget. I watched all your.
No, Egypt is one of the countries that's fighting with Qatar.
Oh,
so
okay.
I left 13 times in the 2.5 years to go to, including coming home to Canada, coming back to Flagler Beach, going to visit my new home, which is Australia.
Yeah, that's where we're going to get there.
But we also went to 10 other countries, Amazing. I think, during the time that we were living there. Some close by, like we went to Kuwait for the weekend. I don't think my mom was that thrilled. But I think that's because as Canadians, we were in the war there when I was younger. Okay. So when we hear Kuwait, we think danger. But that's really not the case anymore, of course. And they're dry, I think, that they don't.
No alcohol at all?
Yeah, at all. Yeah, each country is a little bit different, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I don't think they drink at all there. But their culture was a lot the same as far as the people and the geography was a lot alike. But when I went to Oman, which is another neighbor country, I went there by myself because Mick had already been, and he didn't want to go twice, even though he really liked it. So when he was away somewhere else, I think that's when I went to Oman. And their country was a lot different. Locals worked there, whereas locals in Qatar don't really work day-to-day jobs. They're more in business ownership and maybe higher up positions, but they're oil rich.
Right.
So you would never.
So that's not something. That's not a stereotype. That's
that's
legit.
The truth. Yeah, you would never see a local in a day-to-day, in your day-to-day life working.
Is it safe to say they're all millionaires?
No, I don't think that's true. But the state provides sponsored items. It's hard to know because it's all very much kind of a secret when you're not in the loop.
Right.
But there are certain food items that are provided for, and other things to do with banking and property and all those things that I don't quite understand. Definitely not everybody is rich. That is not true.
Okay.
But I would say that everybody is at least taken care of. And some people are extremely well educated. I met a lot of local ladies that were doctors and dentists and educated in the UK mostly, or in the US, business people.
Are they a curious society in general? Do they have a lot of questions for you? Like, what do you who's this white blonde lady here in my town?
I think they're very private people, and but they know a lot about American culture and things. A lot of the people that can speak English really well, they sound like they have American accents. And when you ask them how they learn to speak English, movies. Yeah. And so that's why if they were educated in England, they sound more British when they talk English. But if they learned from the movies, they usually sound more American.
Is the American music scene there as usual? Like whenever I seem to travel, it's our movies, our music. Is it like that? There, if you're on the radio, you hear whatever's probably here.
Yep,
or to some capacity.
Yes, if you're hearing in English language, everything is.
Is it like an '80s scene or a '90s? Is it just a little bit of everything? A smorgasbord of
normal
Justin
I would
Biebers
say, and movies too. But movies there are
very
what's the word when you go PG-13? In and change stuff?
Censored.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah, censored.
No
not
cursing.
No, it's not the violence. I'm not sure about the cursing. Violence not really censored, but there's no kissy.
Really?
No. So all of those parts are removed. So you're just watching, and then something else happens.
There's no love, no romance.
No. So it's better to go see a movie that has nothing really to do with the love story,
right?
Because then you're not going to miss most of the movie.
No split scene.
No.
Did Mick, was Mick's opinion overall so far, was it positive? Did he enjoy it? Or was he like, I'm not going back?
I don't think either of us really desire to go back as far as to live.
Okay.
Because definitely there's a lot of challenges in living there, but I definitely got a cultural experience out of it.
Right.
I know a lot more about, a tiny bit, but I know
Right.
a lot more than I did know.
Of course.
About being in the Middle East and being Muslim in general. And I think a lot of people have fear that a lot of times is misplaced, because we see certain things on the news media, but maybe
Right.
we don't know anyone ourselves. I just kind of say to people, like, imagine if you were at Publix and one of the ladies, and you were shopping for apples, and one of the ladies came in who was completely covered. You know that everyone's looking,
Yeah.
everyone's thinking, whether we like to admit it or not, that's generally what goes on. So imagine you're at Publix, every lady is covered, and they're yelling at their kids. Their kids are wearing like Frozen, Barbie, Lego, whatever. Right. She's saying, like, I told you 10 times to quit hitting your brother.
Right.
And, and you're just like trying to get the apples, and it's all bustling and everyone's trying. And you're the one who's this tall, blonde, white lady, right, in shorts or in jeans and a t-shirt. And obviously nothing bad is happening.
Right.
So we just have like fear of the unknown, I guess.
Well, I think it's my opinion is of it. When I travel, where I get myself out of my own zip code, it's good to be good to be the one that isn't the normal.
Right.
It's good. And you learn a lot about yourself. But I think it's a reflection of who you are, Doc. And I've always admired that about you, and the people that are probably listening to this and those that I seem to associate with have that like-minded mentality. And it is like, basically, lack of better words, don't hate, just understand. When I see it, you're 100% correct. And I agree with you. When you do see someone and or something that's
different than what you're used to,
it's in our DNA, and anyone who denies it's just a liar. It's what you do with that difference. Do you make it a point to don't do anything that you wouldn't do if it was, I don't know. So my rule of thumb is just treat people as if you were blind. It doesn't matter their appearance, and doesn't matter no matter any of that. But I think it's really fascinating that you got to be the not common denominator in a society. It's something you can't explain. I was telling my brother this the other day via text, and I was like, it's so important to get remove yourself from familiarity.
I think that when I moved to the States, obviously I can hide in plain sight here. I'm not American, right, and nobody knows the difference. People just say, like, are you from Minnesota? And probably a lot of my accent is gone. There's certain words I say that people ask if I'm Canadian, outhouse, about. But other than that, nobody knows. Yeah. And so I think I traveled quite a bit before, but when I moved to Belize, this is the first time that I lived in a community where it was blatantly obvious that I didn't belong. And on top of that, I was like the doctor. And so you really should have to live like as the minority for a while, because you realize people also have misconceptions about you. And maybe you think that you're just coming in to save the day, sort of thing, which isn't why I moved there. And I think slowly over time, I felt like I was like accepted a little bit.
Yeah.
But definitely there's lots of things go on there that you are not in the club,
You're not in the club.
Yeah.
But isn't it, once again, I think it's to testify to it, it's healthy.
Yeah,
it's healthy. It's not healthy when you're 6 and you're not friends. That sucks.
Right.
But even then, it's important to find yourself.
You also realize how privileged a life you've been living, no matter how not like you think that you aren't. Then once you're exposed to other cultures, and maybe in a country where the entire country is not as wealthy as the country that you came from, you quickly realize how you are treated differently in a positive way for you and maybe negative way for others. And the charmed life you've been living because you accidentally got born as a white blonde Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And even working with people in the Middle East, I had tons of coworkers. Like I said, locals don't really work. So I had like 50 coworkers and none of them were local. And they're all imported like me from other countries.
Wow.
And so when you meet people from some of these countries that maybe don't have a favorable passport, you know, I can just up and go visit almost any country
Right.
I want as a Canadian, as a tourist. But there are people from lots of places that they are never going to be allowed to enter certain places as a
Right.
tourist because it's considered non-desirable or that they're suspicious to stay
Right.
and never immigrate out. So I definitely had coworkers, vet techs, kennel guys, reception ladies who are not just free to go where they want because of where they were born.
Is there more of a, was there like it seemed to be a country and or a demographic of people that seem to be there more than others?
Oh, tons. Yeah, definitely. You can look up statistically where people are from.
Where were the majority of people?
The highest number of people are in the labor force, which are mostly men. So building, construction,
everything that's going on.
Yes.
The World Cup's got to be going nuts over there.
So that's what makes the highest majority of people being Indian men.
Okay.
And then after that is, I think, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Nepal.
Interesting.
And I think they say that out of it's like 2.3 million expats, 2 million are men, and only 300,000 are women. And you don't really notice that in day-to-day life. But if you think about it, it's because of the huge labor force that you maybe don't see, who maybe are the people who are the most at risk for not being treated well.
Right.
All of those are men generally, and their wives and their kids are all living at home in their home country. And they only see those families once a year.
Gotcha.
So I had plenty of people working with me as well that had husbands or wives at home in their home country, and they go home for 1 month each year, which is provided by law.
Wow.
That your employer has to send you home for 1 month a year. And mostly men. And so they would be sending money home to Philippines or Sri Lanka.
Right.
Mostly at my work. All of my veterinary nurses were Filipino. Except for when I started, I had one gentleman who was from Africa, who was one of my veterinary nurses. Nice. But otherwise, all Filipino and mostly veterinarians, but working in Qatar as a veterinary nurse.
Nice.
So a lot of that opened my eyes to a lot of naivety that you don't even realize as a North American.
Well, it's always there. That's why. And it's okay. Like I get it. I talk about it a lot during the show, and those that know me around here, and you know me for a hot minute. It's just it's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy to just pick up and to make a move, but it's absolutely imperative sometimes to not. It doesn't require sometimes even going international. Just get out of your zip code.
Yep.
And go be a stranger for a little while. And now you're not going to be relying on the people you've known since you were 5. You're going to have to rely on treating people better than you're treating yourself. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to love, and you're going to have to get by. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all, but it teaches you a lot about yourself. And now we get to the beautiful part of, I'm very jealous about this Australia thing now. Now, how did this come up? I know what is going into your decision making? You're just spinning the globe like it is. Now, wait, Mick is from
Australia.
Is that how he's pulling you in? Is that how this is finally happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I moved to Belize, it was just, I had been on vacation there once by myself.
Did you love? I love Belize.
Of course.
It's amazing, isn't it? I know. Is it like one of those top 4 or 5? He's gonna love you now.
Okay, you have to get down.
You're spoiled. He gets to be out. He used to be out in all the shows, but now that since you love
maybe not everyone's like a dog fan.
Baby, come on. You're being a bad publicist here. He loves her so much.
He wants 20 pets.
Belize,
of course, I love Belize. Belize is like my I guess third home, because I guess
you'll give Belize
Canada
a third
is my
home?
Real home, but I became an adult in Flagler Beach. You know, like I lived when I graduated from veterinary college in Ontario. Then I moved to Flagler Beach 2 weeks later when I was almost 27.
What even brought you here?
I just thought I could learn how to surf. I'd never been to Florida.
But what Flagler?
I came for a job interview in Palm Coast.
Oh, okay.
Just random that was advertised.
You didn't know anybody.
I had never been.
Were you crushing on somebody? Was there a boy here?
Nope.
So
But I came in February when I was in veterinary school. I came for 3 interviews in Florida.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a long story, but I thought maybe I could move to California for a few minutes. And this corporate company came to advertise to us at vet school that was American. And I was like, hey, I don't have a family or a boyfriend that I have to, worry about here. So maybe when I graduate, I could move somewhere where there's the beach, because in vet school,
the beach was calling you.
Yeah, because I went to South Africa for a summer with 2 of my girlfriends, Mandy and Amira. And when we were in vet school, and we stayed there for 8 weeks, and we learned how to surf, and we lived at the beach, and we drove around South Africa, which probably wasn't the safest thing with 3 women in a car that
I don't
we
think
bought.
anything you do is really safe. So.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to go back to the beach, and the whole California thing could not happen just because of the circumstances. So then I started looking at maybe I could move somewhere else. And then I was like, oh, I've never been to Florida. Lots of Canadians love to vacation in Florida, Disney, etc.
That's what I see.
So I had never been here. So I set up 3 random interviews in Florida from the advertisements on the state veterinary website.
Okay.
And I flew here to Fort Lauderdale, rented a car, and I had an interview in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm and Palm Coast, not really realizing, I should know because I'm from a big country, that things can be really far apart. I didn't really realize that Palm Coast was way further away. Yeah. So I stayed in Palm Coast, and the morning.
But hold on now. These are good points. You're you're just straight solo.
Mm-hmm.
You get to Palm Coast.
Yeah, I drove here from Fort Lauderdale.
Who are you? Where did you sleep?
This
was before Airbnb.
Yeah, I stayed in a hotel.
Okay,
I can't say for sure which one, but it was kind of over by the Cracker Barrel.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And there was an ad in my room that said, "Come to the Fisherman's Net." In Flagler Beach for dinner. And so I was like, oh, because they have seafood, and I live landlocked and etc. So I was like, I'm going to try to find this Flagler Beach place. And there was like a little map. I don't think there was smartphones then. No.
Give me a timestamp.
2000 and February of 06.
Wow, you even knew the month.
Well, because this is when I graduated.
Oh, so it's fresh.
And leading towards graduation.
Okay.
So
06. Yeah. So we're still
before the crash of everything.
Yeah.
But also before anyone had a cell phone that was smaller than like, hello?
Right.
So then I drove to Flagler Beach, and of course it was winter because it was February.
Yes. Yep.
And there was some pelicans on the beach, and it was cold, and there was like the pier, and I was going to the Fisherman's Net for dinner, and I was like, I hope I like this job because I am moving to Flagler Beach.
You felt it that fast?
So the next day I went and spent a day with Dr. Walker was my first boss here at Community Animal Clinic. And love Dr. Walker. And so I spent a day with them. And then the next day I had to drive back to Fort Lauderdale to the airport. But I drove back to Flagler Beach just to see it one more time before I drove
to feel it
home.
You fell in love then, huh?
Yeah. And there was a very good job market then. Everybody offered me a new graduate job.
Right.
But I took the job in Palm Coast.
Nice. And that was the one, it starts with a B? Bearfield or were you working?
No, that's Community.
Oh.
Community Animal Clinic. They're on Old Kings.
Okay.
Like kind of at Old Kings and Palm Coast.
So now this is where we're crossing soon? Because now you moved to is this where your first spot was? Was over here by Marina Bay? Remember? The
first place I lived was in Marina Bay. Is Marina Bay the one behind, or Ocean Marina the one behind?
I don't know. One's yellow and one's where Adam was. I don't remember.
The back one. The one that's gray. Yeah, the one where Chris lives.
Coke, by the way?
No, I'm okay.
So
the one where
the one Chris lived?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you're there.
I lived in a couple different places. Hello.
Stop.
You get down. Good boy. I lived in a couple different places in Flagler Beach. I worked for Dr. Walker. I left there after about a year and a half. And just kind of, I needed a just advanced change in my
Right.
path. And so then I worked at a clinic, a big fancy clinic in St. Augustine for 5 years.
Fancy schmancy clinic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I worked there for 5 years, but I commuted from
where do
here.
I want to know where I cross you.
Mm,
I don't remember. You were living
at the next one.
Okay.
So after that, I worked. So I commuted there for 5 years, and then I worked for a very short time for Banfield, which is a corporate-owned
yes,
big entity that has a clinic in
Petco.
Palm Coast. Yep. And that's probably around the time that we met.
Boom.
And I moved to a few different apartments all throughout Flagler during that time. And then the last place I worked was at Ravenwood. Fancy schmancy, really, really nice clinic.
I don't think I ever went to that
Port
one.
Orange.
Yeah, I never went
so
to
I
one.
commuted there for Dr. Emerson.
What makes it a fancy schmancy place? Just the like $100 to see you kind of thing? Like
No.
just to walk in, or
Just like-
just it's pretty?
No,
Oh.
I mean like medicine, quality of
quality of things.
things.
You guys
yeah.
are like treating cancers and da.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, okay, well,
I
whatever.
try to stay away from treating cancer. I leave that up to the cancer doctor mostly.
So
I send
just
you to the
fancy
oncologist.
schmancy.
Just the what's offered and
I see
the
what you're saying.
Oh,
The diversity
the-
of care that you have.
yep, exactly.
You know, I miss you because of that. I always hated bothering you, but
at Ravenwood they have the hyperbaric chamber also.
wow.
Yeah,
We have a
that they can-
hyperbaric chamber.
Yep.
For like lung issues or in case they dive too deep in the
Exactly. It's for scuba accidents for dogs and cats. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to say.
It's for like wound healing and back injuries and those type of things. But that thing is dangerous.
I can imagine.
You have to be very, very.
I'm sure that's
there is like a story in Florida where they have them for horses quite a bit, and
wow.
there was an explosion involving a horse and a human where neither one of them survived, involving a hyperbaric chamber in Florida. So it's not a toy to be messed with, but it is pretty cool.
It's like the thing in The Office where Mike wasn't allowed to play with the pallet crusher. You had to see
Too much danger.
Too much danger. You can't play by that thing.
But Dr. Emerson, actually, she's the co-owner of Ravenwood. I still stay in contact with her. And sometimes some of my bigger, braver overseas endeavors involving surgery have involved her silently in the background, sending me hand drawings and tips and encouragement.
Well, that's good. Well, you know, like I said, I cherish you, and Camille loves you very, very much too. But I do miss having you in my. Thank God the dogs have been healthy.
Direct
It was
circle?
it was such a blessing to have. Just like with anybody, it's like having a friend that's a doctor that you don't have to go through the red tape.
You can ask a
Yeah,
question.
and you helped us out through some spooks. But you know what I've always loved about you is when I think that my dog's like head's gonna fall off,
and I'm like,
you're like,
being ridiculous.
it's not gonna fall off. But you're so cool.
You're
calm,
an
reflective.
overreactor.
Yeah. Oh, big time hypo. That's just how I am. I don't know why, but yeah, I miss. But more than that too, I think it's just exciting to hear yours. I love knowing that you're all over the place and it's so healthy.
You asked me, I think, how we're getting to Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
I got tangented.
It's okay.
So
it's part of the show.
In Belize, I went because I'd been on holiday there and I wanted to get out of the US after 10 years. And I love coming to visit Flagler, but I was ready at that time to be done for a bit. And so I was like, what could I do? I thought about maybe moving somewhere within the US or moving back to Canada. And then I was like, hey, that Belize place, they needed a veterinarian. When I was there, everybody mentioned it, but I didn't know if I could make that happen. And so I ended up making the Belize thing happen, but I knew that coming out of there, I wouldn't really have any money.
Okay.
So Mick and I wanted to move to Australia next. We were thinking about that. And I started applying for Australian residency as a skilled worker. So a type of visa where I'd be my own self-sponsor because of my job. And my job is like on a list of needed professions in Australia. So it wouldn't be connected to like being married or a specific employer, which when I lived here, I was always sponsored only by my employer. Okay. So if I lost that job, I would have like 30 days to get out, basically.
I didn't know that.
If I wanted to do something on the side to do with running or anything like that, not allowed. So I kind of wanted to get this visa where I could just live freely, basically like a green card in the US,
Okay.
which I never had. So I started applying. Mick and I started applying and filling out all of the.
What does he have to apply for? I thought he was a resident.
He's a citizen.
A
He
citizen.
just started helping me apply.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. He's a dual citizen. He's
Crossing
also a
those T's
citizen
and dotting
of
those I's.
Malta.
I
Yeah,
gotcha.
he's a citizen of Malta and Australia. So there was, yes, so much paperwork. I mean, months of paperwork and letters from my first employer, like second employer, third employer. And I needed a doctor's exam. Oh, this was kind of a good story. So I needed a doctor's exam to be accepted. And there's only very specific clinics that you can go to for these travel exams to be, even if you wanted to become a US resident, a Canadian resident. When you go through this process, oftentimes you have to have some blood tests, some urine tests, a physical exam.
Wow.
And so in Central America, so we were living on, people sometimes think Belize is an island, but it's not. It's neighbors with Mexico, Honduras, and Guatemala.
Right.
But we were living on an island of Belize off the coast on Ambergris Key in San Pedro, which it's very romantic to say you're living in the Caribbean Sea on a little tiny island, but also has, of course, tons of challenges once you realize you've been cut off from
no milk,
the rest of the world, including the mainland of Belize for all that time. So there was a clinic listed in every country in Central America, one clinic per country that was acceptable for this exam, except not in Belize.
Of course.
Every neighbor, yes. Us, no. So I kind of had to decide which big city which are not necessarily super safe places to go alone, would I go to get this doctor's exam. So I ended up picking that I would go on a long weekend, very fast trip to Mexico City, which involved like getting on a boat and getting on a plane and walking across the border and getting in a taxi and going to the next airport and going to Chetumal and flying to Mexico City and going to this specific clinic where I had like the most thorough doctor's visit of my life.
Oh, like physical.
Yeah. So there were blood tests and chest x-rays for tuberculosis and pee in a cup while I watch you and an eye exam, psychological questions. I think HIV testing was part of the blood testing. And then this very nice Mexican lady who actually had a little Canadian pin on too, because they just did exams for Canada and Australia. She gave me they write down every mole, tattoo, scar, anything that you have. She kind of when the doctor kind of does one of these and, does that hurt? She's like, does that hurt? And then she just whops you in the spleen. And she's like, any pain there? And you're like,
now.
Yes, exactly.
So this is all because the
Australian government,
they don't want no sickies.
Right. They approve you to a certain point and then you need to go get the exam. And then once I got the exam, then I was I was entered in the lottery, basically based on how many points I had.
Did you have a lot of points?
I had a moderate amount of points. Like being older counts against you, but more years of experience counts for you. So there's kind of trade-offs like that. I wrote an English test when I lived in Florida in anticipation of that. Okay. Because if you say you're Canadian, they accept that you speak English. But they give you say 3 points out of 10. Okay. If you go and write one of those TOEFL English as a second language kind of tests, then you could get up to 10 points. And you have to have a minimum point number to be able to apply. So once I got to the minimum points and I had all my paperwork, then you get put in this sort of monthly lottery thing to see if you'll get accepted. So the boyfriend told me that based on his experience, not to be disappointed because it might take months and months for me to get selected.
Yeah. Really? Day one?
Day one. First month I got selected.
Of course you did.
So I was
probably was like, really?
Yeah, exactly. So then that just meant though that
So is an employer picking you or
No, it's the system is picking you based on who applied that month.
Okay.
For what kind of jobs and how many.
We got kicked off. Well, we're live on YouTube. What do you want me to do? Yeah, tell them that's what happens. It's part of the show.
It's probably my
See, you started talking
probably my mom.
Qatar, this, and now we get booted. No, that's what happens. But it's okay. We got a hard copy, and we're still live on YouTube, so don't worry about it.
So then the clock starts, and so I think I got accepted in August, living in Belize, working in San Pedro every day with my best lady, Ingrid. I have to give Ingrid a shout out. Ingrid's my Belizean veterinary nurse, who's more like my boss, who keeps me in order, keeps me in check.
This is the Aussie lady?
No, she's the Belizean lady.
Oh, Belize.
Yeah,
okay.
She makes sure I'm on the right track.
You fell in love in Belize.
Doctora.
That's it. Oh.
All the time.
It's a dialect of Spanish out there, isn't it? Kinda ish.
Yeah, Belize is an English speaking country by law, like technically, because they were British Honduras until 1981. So they speak English and Creole, their own Creole.
Right.
Like a lot of Caribbean islands have their own version of Creole, and which is, maybe I'll get in trouble for this, it's sort of like Pidgin English. It's like a different version of English.
Okay.
Not to the point where I can always understand, because I see it typed out a lot still on my Facebook, and I still don't always know what's going on. Yeah. But of course, most Belizeans also speak Spanish, and Ambergris Key is full of Spanish immigrants from the neighboring countries, and every neighbor is fully Spanish.
That's what when I go there, it's usually Spanish.
So you can, if you're on holiday, you can definitely get by with English only. Every single person in a hotel or a restaurant who's helping you is always going to be able to speak English. But generally the community coming into the clinic, a huge percentage of them would rather speak Spanish. And maybe some of them could only speak Spanish, but most people can, even most immigrants there have some level of English. Like Ingrid is actually born in Honduras, so her first language is Spanish, but her husband Edgar is
so she's
Belizean
like your,
mainlander.
She's your veterinarian mom, so she's like your mentor?
Except she's like my Belizean mentor. We're close to the same age, but she's been working there as the nurse for 19 years, I think, like self-taught. And I only just stepped into her world for 1 year.
Right.
So we're working every day hard. I'm making tiny bit of money to just be able to pay for life.
What's the average income, if you don't mind me asking, like there?
Very low. Like the minimum wage, I think, just changed. I saw it, but it's just in like the dollars, like as far as
equivalent of US dollars. Like
just a couple dollars
an hour.
Yes, exactly.
But is the cost of living there?
I would say the cost of living in Belize is the highest cost of living in Central America.
Really?
As far as visiting other Central American countries, maybe Costa Rica is in there as the competitor for most expensive, but living on the island, definitely more expensive than living on the mainland.
And is it because of more of the actual, like, your commodities just in general?
It's more because there's lots of tourists.
Right.
A fair number of Americans living there, and then everything on the island is brought from somewhere else.
There's nothing actually indigenous,
grown
right? Maybe
tourism. But as far as things you need, like clothes and food, no. So electricity really expensive.
Wow.
Electricity is out a lot. That's one of the frustrations of island living for anybody.
I think I remember seeing you post
sometimes
once
it's
in a blue moon,
scheduled, like scheduled to be out.
Wow.
Sometimes the water is scheduled also to be off, but other times it just is a surprise.
Did that mess with you? I think we'll do this too for people, because I bet you they're getting mad.
Locals
we'll
also
go live again.
Are just as
did it mess with your clinic? Yeah, okay, everyone's pissed off.
I think.
Did it mess like you're literally in the middle of surgery, or did you have a lot of that?
I can remember one time Ingrid's teenage daughter, Jaslyn, helping me do surgery with the light on her cell phone.
Are you serious? So you're like literally in the middle of surgery and
but I think it was just sewing up like a wound, not like where somebody's guts were open. But I had the wound facing the window so that I could see a little bit better. And then I think Jaslyn's 15 now, so she would have been about 12 to 13 then. So
you weren't, thank God, like guts are open. You're doing the surgery, lights off.
Right.
It was, oof.
But you just sort of you just can't plan your whole, maybe if the lights were already on and off, I wouldn't plan to open up an animal surgically, because sometimes if it goes off once, it's coming off again,
Wow.
sort of thing. But I mean, it just disrupts their life as much as
Are
me.
they animal lovers? The Belizean community, so to speak.
More dogs.
A lot of stray dogs.
So sort of lots of stray dog problems.
That's what I remember.
Sort of
where
the
I go.
opposite of Qatar. Qatar has a huge stray cat problem.
Really?
And they love their cats more. And Belize has more problems with dogs. And just like in North America, they statistically don't take much veterinary care of their cats. So if it wouldn't, I could go probably, other than the shelter animals, because I was working at Saga Humane Society, which is the shelter, but also has a clinic within it. Other than the shelter cats, I could definitely go weeks and not treat a person's cat.
Wow.
But still see 25 people a day with a dog.
Yeah.
I think they are still where we were a little bit ago, in that dogs are now starting to become part of the family. Yes. It's just not as much maybe as we think we are at this point. So there are dogs living in the yard, protecting the house, those sort of things, where it's not necessarily considered on the level of a house pet.
Right.
But definitely there are people who are starting to more and more think of their dogs in that way.
As
and
family.
Yeah, and willing to maybe take a little bit better care, or follow some more advice, or spend a little bit of money when they're sick or injured, that sort of thing. But a lot of that comes from, in every country, that comes from education, just about general care and kindness towards animals.
Well, I'm jealous, not only because you're going to Australia and it's Australia and it has the allure of Australia, but I think they are the ones pioneering. I may butcher this, but that, first of all, Canada is also pioneering this, and I love your home country because they just outlawed any mammals in captivity, marine life, more importantly, which is just, gosh.
Well, I think everybody is trending towards becoming more aware of the pros and cons of all of the things that we do, where animals are involved in entertainment and captivity, and how to balance people becoming interested in those things and proponents of conservation. And I mean, everybody has lots of people have lots of bad things to say about big places that keep animals, which I won't name any names, but a lot of times behind the scenes, those places provide a lot of money.
I understand that.
And care to also, like, for example, Florida's wildlife. So I think that as everyone becomes more cognizant and more aware of different species and how they handle being kept, because most of us keep pets, but some animals aren't pets, and some animals just don't deal well with being kept in
bathtub
confinement when we can't make that confinement necessarily very big. So it's pretty exciting to be somewhere like overseas where you can see all of the dreamy animals, lions and elephants and all those things in the wild. And
well, Australia just did something, and I forget what it was. It may not even been marine life, but they just banned and outlawed something phenomenal that was in some type of captivity and or entertainment fashion. And I was just like, man, we're getting there. But like you said, I think it is a fine line. And I'm not, for those that know me well, I may share it with like over the show, but I don't post it. And when I see people visiting those places and institutions, I don't bash them. But when I share it audibly here on the show, because this is part of who I am and it's in my DNA. But it's hypocritical, I could have, playing devil's advocate, like I got dogs, so like,
it's not the same. And I try not to be, I'm not really much of an extremist either way, because I think a lot of what people see online, in videos and all those things, you have to remember that each group presents what they want you to see. And so a lot of things are skewed, depending on the background of the people presenting it in both fashions. So it's hard to really understand what goes on unless you go and see it for yourself. So you have to try to have a balanced view of those things.
So I'm on a tangent before I forget to. I've got two people that I'm aggressively seeking, and I'm this close to getting her. and they call her the shark whisperer, and she's the one that everyone's seeing, and she's like super viral for. She's in the mesh. She's in that like the shark mesh, and I don't know where her native area is, but she seems to be diving at the same spot rather habitually, and these sharks are coming up to her, and they're getting more and more comfortable, and she's removing hooks from these.
I think sharks. I saw her on Facebook.
Yes. So you know me.
But where's she from?
I don't know.
She has an accent.
Yes, I don't know. And I reach out to her. I get the generic auto message like, "I'm a superstar, you're not," which is fine. And then I get a real message from her.
Oh,
I was blown away, and that's happening more and more. I think people are starting to value my.
Remember when you and I saw the dead shark on Flagler Beach?
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool day.
That was a cool. Well, it's like a bittersweet.
Yeah.
You got to see it.
It was dead, but
it was dead shark.
So Adam told me, "Hey Sam, there's a dead shark down on like 17th North or something."
Fix it.
And I was like, "No way, I'm going to go see it." Because I'm like, "You mean like a shark?" And he's like, "No, like a shark."
It's a big boy.
So I wanted to go and see it before it. I mean, I kind of like finding bones and skulls and things like that. So when I went to go and try to find it, I'm like, "Oh, there's some dude over there already like looking at it." And then as I got closer, I was like, "Chenzo?
Yep. Is
that you?" And you were like, "Yep."
I'm doing like experiments on it.
And it was very dead. But I took some pictures of it, and then I sent those to like a shark guy at UF, I think. And again, it was kind of like, I'm a bit more, I tried to use the doctor card, and that at least got his like
little attention.
Assistant lady, also scientist, to respond. And then she said that she would ask him and then get back to me again. And then she did. Nice. Because we thought it was a black tip, but I think it was because the tip was not very black. Yeah. And then we thought, so she said it was a juvenile black tip.
It was like decomposing. Yeah. At that point, which happens so fast.
You could smell it.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was pretty cool. And when I went to South Africa, one of the things we did was spend 2 weeks just watching great whites breach out of the water and chasing other smaller sharks around and tagging them. And
that's where I get really jealous.
I have like affinity for the Air Jaws people.
Air Jaws.
Yeah. The people who make the Air Jaws movies that are always on Shark Week.
Oh, yeah.
Chris and Monique Fallows.
Yep.
They're the people I spent the 2 weeks with when we lived in South Africa.
This is where I don't like you.
I know. So I really I have a soft spot in my heart for sharks since we did that.
I love the sharks. I just went to Bathtub Beach, which is in where is it? St. Pete, I think. I don't know. St. Petersburg, Florida. I've never been. Anyways, point is, walkable reef, West Palm Beach area, loaded with black tips and nurse sharks. Amazing. And it was just gorgeous to see them and not have to go. I'm not a diver, man. So it was good to be able to walk out to it and then be able to like snorkel and whatnot. Do you know I found once the guy, another story about like I'm too cool for you kind of thing, but he responded when I don't know if you were here still, you may have left, but I found a pelican that had this crazy apparatus on its back. It was like a backpack. Ever tell you this?
No.
Really? This always happens to me. It's always me.
So you know who would love a pelican with a backpack is Adam, because he loves birds.
I actually did. I was going crazy when I found this thing. So it was already decomposing, but it was a pelican, and I immediately was like, "Oh,
it was dead."
It was dead.
Okay.
And it had a backpack on it.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. Good. Like a legit, like the size of this thing on its back, with straps and everything. And I'm like, you have to be kidding me! Like I just found an alien. Something's going on. Right. So I find this thing. It's like it's in the later stages of like it's like semi-bone in some places, and the feathers are intact, but like it's pretty. Most of its flesh is gone. But I see this backpack on. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! So I somehow, some way get this backpack off with keeping my guts inside. It was a horrendous smell and thing, but I get it off. And this backpack had some kind of like felt material around it too, to keep it's, not to rub on it, I'm sure.
Right.
That was the most rancid thing. So I'm like holding this, trying to rub it off. The point is, on the backside, I finally start to see some like hieroglyphics. I don't understand any of this stuff, but I Google it. Long story short, I get in touch with, I think it was the University of South Carolina. Come to find out, I send them this quick message, and right away they get in touch with me, and they had been doing tracking. They had released it, and we're tracking
Oh, so
it.
it wasn't like garbage stuck to the bird.
No.
It was a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was like they were tracking its migratory route, boom. And they were like, we need this backpack back. And I'm like, for $1 million. No, but immediately I even had.
That sounds like a song. We need the backpack back.
But
from the 80s.
They sent me like their behind analytical data on the thing.
Oh.
It was so amazing. But yeah, so they were doing some research on it. And I kind of was like, I wonder if it was this backpack that freaking killed this thing, because it was rather large. But found it, and it was really neat to have that kind of dialogue at that level of people and scientists.
Did they know the bird was dead from it not moving or something?
They figured literally, they gave me this amazing breakdown of this bird about where it's been, everything.
Was it also banded?
It had a band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That's a good question. Of course you knew that. It had like a band on both feet.
Yeah.
None of it made sense to me. It was all numbers, but I gave them all of that. I had taken a ton of photos, sent that to them, and they gave me this whole breakdown. So yeah, I sent the thingy back, and I was hoping that was before I was doing a show and all that jazz, but I was hoping that I could have met them one day.
That's pretty cool.
But I'm going to meet the shark lady. Hopefully we're right there. She's like, let me see the show. And this is that. She wants to do a remote one. She doesn't know I'm coming to her.
Oh.
Like she doesn't realize I'm going to
go. Well, shark lady.
I'm coming for you, shark lady.
You should be on.
The shark. I love her. Well, I'm going to go to her, and we're going to make a vacation out of it, because wherever she is obviously. And I showed my parents, but I'm not a diver. You dive the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like normal recreational diving, not like mixed
shark mesh. Well, man, your boyfriend is another level of, I don't know.
It's a different kind of diving.
He's a superhuman man. I don't know how do people, for those that don't know your boyfriend, I should have tagged him in it, because he's as famous.
He's diving.
I know he's diving now. But her boyfriend cave dives.
Yeah. But other people do too.
Yeah. Okay. How many people do you know that are cave diving?
Yeah.
One.
So he's like a rebreather diver, which is a whole different category of people that dive with what looks sort of like an anesthetic machine on their back.
Have you ever seen him panic? Anxiety, nervous, TSA lines, anything? Because when you're confined, for those that don't know, he's like.
The painful part of being a diver and going through the TSA line is having a little bit of your dive equipment in the bag.
Oh, you're cooked.
And having the guy at the Qatar airport not hold you up for an hour and tell you that you're not going to get on board with it when you're trying to leave the country for good on the very last day.
You shouldn't have brought that respirator.
The little plastic tube thing that he suddenly thinks is a big, bad thing.
Can't say bomb in a TSA
That
line.
is correct. But I started having the end of my patience that day. Yeah.
You're like, I denounce you. I don't know who he is.
When you live in a country like that, it's not a democracy.
Right.
It's an absolute monarchy. There's a king, which is the Emir Tamim, and you keep your mouth shut and you don't say things against anybody. And you don't say your opinions if they don't flow, and you just keep your mouth to yourself. But when
you guys probably didn't have any issues, though. I can't.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But you would not post something on Facebook that was like, "Hey, I don't like the government,"
right?
Or you're just going to get deported. As a Canadian woman, probably just going to get deported.
Yeah.
But once we got in the airport situation, I might have had a few things to say because I was like, well, we're self-deporting today because this is our last day.
Right.
So quit making stuff up.
Right.
And just let us get on the airplane.
Where is he cave diving right now?
Please. He's not cave diving today.
He's just diving.
He's on the west coast of Florida doing some sort of shark tooth diving. And yesterday he was doing a course near Tampa.
Okay.
And then he's diving throughout Florida. He just went diving in Dominican, but he's diving throughout Florida for the rest of the next 2 weeks.
You've seen that new meme yet for the Dominican Republic?
I'm sure it has something to do with dying at a resort.
It says going on a killer vacation in the Dominican Republic. It's really sad, but because it's really actually people are getting hurt. But
yes, but I'm actually going to Dominican is my next stop on this holiday because you haven't asked me where I'm going next.
Well, we haven't gone there yet. Chenzo.
So in the end, we're moving to Australia.
Can we come? Maybe that.
And I had moved to the Middle East because I had no money as a Belizean veterinarian to move to Australia and, get a car and a shelter over my head. So I had to come up with some sort of harebrained scheme to save up some money so that we could move to another country again. And so then my harebrained scheme was, let's move to the Middle East where there's tax-free dollars, and we'll stay there for a year, which turned into 2.5. And then we'll move to Australia. So my scheme worked. And most veterinarians are struggling with their student loans, especially Americans. So I was able to finish. I've been out of school for 13 years. And so when we first moved there, I'd been out of school for 11 years. And so the loan that I had been struggling for 11 years to pay off I finished paying it off in the first 5 months that we lived there. And then we just started sort of saving up and traveling. Moves. Yeah.
I love it.
And so we still have
selling that surfboard in Flagler Beach. It all added up there. See,
bicycle, beds. Would you like my purse?
You really were selling.
I have some nice shoes.
So funny.
I have some nice dresses. I took them all to consignment. I returned my diamond earrings for cash. And so right now we're just on a 6-month holiday.
Okay.
I guess 6-month travel. And then we'll start working in Australia when we move there in November.
You have like a contract all set up and everything?
Oh no, I have no home and no job.
I love that. I love hearing that. Makes me
but we're flying into Sydney, and he's from that area, but we don't know for sure if that's.
But you got approved. You got your Superman papers for being.
I'm a permanent resident of Australia forever.
Wow.
As long as I start spending time there. If you don't actually ever move in, because I went and activated it, so we went to Australia for 1 week in 2016.
Okay.
And I activated the visa. And then I went back again for his sister's wedding in March of this year. But otherwise, I have never been there. So just 2 1-week stints, basically. Okay. So if you don't actually start living, they're like, thank you, but we're going to take our that back. Yeah. So it provides a path to citizenship if you want to become a dual citizen of Australia and Canada. So you have your
citizenship there, Canada.
You could.
Here, you're still a spy.
Here, I'm a nothing.
Here, you're
just a tourist. But there, I'm a permanent resident.
Okay. Wow.
So, I could turn into citizenship if I started that process over the course of 2 to 4 years. But it wouldn't mean giving up being a Canadian or affect being a Canadian.
You would never denounce your.
No, if I had to move there, I wouldn't move there.
So I guess
still want to be a proud Canadian.
I haven't been there. I have a regret about Australia because my cousin went and just backpacked it. I was super young, super broke, and I should have went. And now I always relive that. I'm like, I should have just went. But that was a scary one. I was like way out of just couldn't do it. But anyways, we got to come see you, I guess. Is that going to be it? Get settled?
First, I need a place to live and a job.
Get a job.
There's a really good market for jobs right now.
Find me the equivalent of a turtle shack there, and I'm coming.
I just keep saying I want to live near the beach, and Mick keeps trying to tell me to be realistic. And
it's got to be super, super expensive.
Depending where you want to live, like Sydney is astronomically expensive for the housing market and for everything else. Right. So, but that's where his family is, and his sister-in-law is having another baby soon. Wow. And he has one nephew and 2 siblings, and his parents, they all live in that area. So
is this an indefinite trip too, as you usually do? Like you're just going and
everyone says, is it forever? And I'm like, forever's a long time. Like, hopefully we live to be old. And so I'm not sure if it's forever. Okay. I would definitely still like to maybe live in a few other countries as a vet for a year.
Where?
There's always lots of opportunities in Hong Kong. But I need to spend time in Australia to maintain the residency to start with.
You got to get there.
Got to get there and start trying to work there.
Okay.
Which I've never done, obviously, and their culture is different from ours.
Mm-hmm.
So November, I'm going to arrive in Sydney.
Okay. Because from now till November, you're just spying around.
Yeah. Every day and every flight and every place is already pre-decided of where we're going to be.
From now till November? You have some travels?
Oh, lots.
Where?
Where
are we going?
Well, first I went to Canada.
Okay.
And we went to French Canada. Mick had never been to Canada, and I'm rarely a tourist in French Canada. Okay. It's a good way to practice my French, but I definitely had clients in the Middle East that wanted to speak French all the time. So And I get a few Belizean clients that are French,
Okay.
but not too many. But in Qatar, definitely could probably do at least an appointment a week, and definitely had clients who only came to us because they wanted to speak French to me.
Interesting.
From Africa and from France. Then we went to visit my mom and my dad, both live in Ontario.
How are you doing, by the way? All's good?
Yeah, everyone's doing good. And my cat lives
Don't you have
there
a sister
too.
or
My
something?
sister lives out west though.
Okay.
So my cat Jabba.
She's doing good?
Mm-hmm. She
Oh,
lives
yeah,
at
your
my
cat.
Yeah, she's still going. She
Okay.
lives at my mom's, and she took one look at me and ran the other way.
Oh, I don't blame her.
That was our whole
Horrible
that was our whole relationship.
She hates you. What about Cheerios? He must love you.
Yeah, but he's here.
I know, but when you saw him,
He was excited. So
that's her dog, by the way. People are like, she eats a lot of Cheerios.
his name is Cyrano.
What's Cheerios?
So, and he couldn't come to the Middle East.
No, of course not. So now,
we also took my mom on a surprise trip to Newfoundland because I'd never been to the east coast of Canada.
Okay.
And we wanted to see the puffins because one of our trips while we lived abroad was to Iceland. Wanted to see the puffins, which is like a smaller bird than you think, and the Northern Lights. So we went to Iceland, which I would strongly recommend to all North Americans to take advantage of cheap flights to Iceland, even though the country itself, very expensive, getting there very cheap, and one of the best countries as far as like the natural beauty that I've ever been to, for sure. But the puffins left before I got there, and the Northern Lights came after I left.
You were robbed
of both. So went to
What, they
Newfoundland.
migrate there? They're not.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you don't know they're leaving because they don't tell.
It's all about it depends on the pricing of the flights.
It's like, excuse me,
hello.
do you know what day you'll be flying out? And they're like 2 weeks before.
What do they do?
Samantha
They mate
gets
there?
here.
Is that their mating ground?
I would be lying if I said I knew
Okay.
completely, but there's a couple places in the world that they go to.
Are those swimming birds too?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
They're like little.
They're
mini
very bad
penguins.
flyers.
They are. Yeah.
The guy on the tour in Newfoundland, he had a name for them, which now I'm forgetting. But it basically, piss poor flyer. That's what they call
they're
them.
not really.
A PPF.
Oh.
So they kind of sit on the water or on the
cliffs.
Mm-hmm. But when they actually have to fly away from something, it's kind of like a bad takeoff and like a lot of hitting the water with your feet.
Like
and your
the pellet,
wings.
like the bird in Little Mermaid.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't all there.
So we went to Newfoundland, and not to see the Northern Lights, but we did see my classmate, Kate, who lives there. I only have one classmate that lives there, and she's American, living in St. John's. And then we saw the puffins, and then we went to New Orleans for our co-birthday anniversary time.
Did you like New Orleans?
Yeah, it was fun.
Did you misbehave?
Well,
You don't really ever.
I mean, I pet
Oh.
a police horse. I mean, maybe that was misbehaving.
Well, listen to you.
And,
Risque.
I had a few drinks. Mostly people watching. We went on a plantation tour, and otherwise we just stayed off of Bourbon Street, like half a block, and so we could walk up and down Bourbon all the time.
Nice.
And we just stayed like 3 days.
Was it your first time there?
Yes. And so we just
What month was it?
It was May 24th.
Ooh, steamy.
Birthday time.
Was
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Hot during the day. We ran a little bit,
Mhm.
and we just walked around and ate and drank. And then from there, we went straight to Belize for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I did volunteer work at my old real work.
Was your mentor there?
Oh, yeah. It was the best time.
Yeah.
Mick went off to the other island. We have a neighbor island,
Okay.
Key and that's where all the cave diving is. So when we got to Belize City, we divided, and I took a little puddle jumper, like 12-seater to Ambergris, and he took a 12-seater to Key.
Okay.
And then I just stayed in San Pedro for the 2 weeks, went to work every day of the weekdays, and just did lots. They don't have a
Are you a
full-time
swimmer, girl?
vet.
Do you like to do you swim, snorkel? Are you in the water a lot?
Yeah, I used to be a lifeguard as a teenager.
But yeah, but like do you get off on the snorkeling though? Are you a water girl? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I love
I'm
about
like
there.
a casual diver, and I like the ocean. I like to swim and
Okay.
stuff. So we left there after 2 weeks and came here. And then we have 3 weeks here.
Did you run in the thing? And there wasn't there a little like a 5K recently? Did you run in it
Mhm.
here?
Yep.
Was that Matuzak's?
No, it was Carrie put it a free
Okay.
on the sand beach 5K
Okay.
on our second morning here.
Oof.
And the girl who looks after my dog full time, Devin, she got married on Saturday.
Oh, yeah,
2
that's
weeks
what you
ago.
were here. The wedding.
That's what I was dressed up for.
That's why it's all coming
Yeah.
together.
So we made sure we were here by the time that she and Mike were getting married in
I
Marineland.
see.
And then we went to Carrie's free community 5K, which is really good on
Do I know
on
Carrie?
the sand. Yeah,
Okay,
maybe.
Okay.
She's like probably the most well-known runner lady in the Flagler area.
Oh, okay.
She puts on lots of different events.
How's your times these days?
And we were running. Well, she was kicking my butt the past week and a half because my time's a little slow.
What are you at?
We ran 5.5 miles this morning, going 8:55-minute miles.
Still
I think.
got it, girl.
Oh, but she's talking a lot more than I'm talking. I trained really hard for a 10K in Qatar in January. I missed my PR by 6 seconds.
Loser.
And I had an Olympian as my coach, actually. She was a Scottish lady who won the silver medal in the 99. I might be off by a year, whatever the Olympics are closest to that year. She was the 10K silver medalist.
Mm-hmm.
So she did all my programming, and living there, I got slow because of the heat.
Yeah.
So I tried to re-get fast. And I think my pace for the 10K was 8:02.
That's really good.
I didn't quite make the
What are you like? Are you
but I'm not training for anything right now.
Are you time zoned? Where are you? Like right now we're at 11:30. Are you at 11:30
Yep,
physically?
Because I came here from Canada.
Okay, so you got a little.
And then Belize, but Belize is only 1 to 2 hours off from here, depending on the time of year, because they don't do daylight savings. So we're at the same time as my real home. At my parents live in this time zone.
So you're not all
No, I'm all refixed.
Okay.
But coming from Qatar is a challenge because it's like 7 to 9 hours different.
Ahead, right, or behind?
They're ahead of us, so it's already tonight. And
future.
Australia, it's already like tomorrow.
Yeah, they're in like
a different world,
time zones. Wow.
So from here, Mick and I don't always do the exact same thing, but I'm going to volunteer free work for 1 week in the Dominican at the end of this
It's
month.
a killer time.
That's right. Hopefully everything will be fine. And I'm not staying at a resort. And so I picked them just from some internet stuff. It's a Canadian guy that runs it. And they met sort of my volunteer criteria. And so I started talking to them. And then they're one of the ones I picked for this year because I wanted to pick 3. But going to Belize would, of course, be one of them.
So he's not going to the Dominican with you?
No, he already went to go diving.
Are your families thrilled that you're going to the Dominican?
My mom keeps posting on Facebook that everyone's dead. So
everyone's dead.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
So then if I live through that, then I'm going to visit my sister and her husband and my nieces. They live in Canmore, Alberta. So most people know where Banff is. This is like in the Rocky Mountains.
Okay, I know where that is.
One of Canada's most famous national parks where everyone goes skiing.
Okay.
She lives in their neighbor town, which is like a little boutique ski town.
Like right before you bounce in November?
No, I'll be there for 3 weeks in July.
Okay. Oh, that's like tomorrow.
And Mick will be coming to meet me there for a good part of it and be tourists there, but also just visit my nieces, Lyra and Kalia, and see my sister.
Okay.
And then we're going on a 2-month safari to Africa.
Just a little safari.
Yeah, like 57 nights or something like that.
What part of Africa?
It goes to 10 countries. Wow. It starts in Kenya and it ends in Cape Town. And you ride like a bus truck with other people.
Real people?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't like strangers.
Just act like you can't speak English. Or actually it won't work anyways. Or it's French. Just don't speak French.
Right. So we're doing that.
That's exciting though.
That's exciting. That's the thing we plan.
Is that all like booked, ready to go?
Yeah, because it's with a company.
Okay.
It's very difficult to cross through all those borders without being with a group because of the problems with hiring renting a car.
Right.
And self-driving. So we're not self-driving. So it does a variety of things where it goes to like Victoria Falls and it goes to Zanzibar, which is sort of like the islandy beach part of Tanzania, which I actually already went to Tanzania this year because I climbed Kilimanjaro this year.
No. Can we
but I
wait,
get to go
chill.
back.
Wait a second. We got to hover on there for a minute.
Okay.
You climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yep. This year for my 40th birthday year.
You say it like you like took a poop, like it was like not a big deal.
It was pretty fun.
Amazing.
With 4 girlfriends, including my sister and Carrie, and then my friends Brooke and Amanda, who all live in Florida except my sister.
Did you hear all the ruckus going on with Mount Everest?
Yeah, but
Is that happening on that mountain?
No, because Everest is like in a whole different category.
Okay.
Everest, your chance of dying, no matter what you do, is pretty high.
Right.
And you're technical climbing
Right.
as well, and you should be very properly trained.
Right, which not a lot of people are.
Which I assume that a lot of people are, but I think that unfortunately greed is what allows too many people to be on the mountain at the same time.
For those that are listening, in case you don't know, Mount Everest is having a huge issue with them giving way too many well, this is what they're saying. I haven't been there. But the people that are going and those that are aware of it, they're giving out way too many permits, and literally there's such congestion on the getting up there that people are dying and running out of oxygen
while they're waiting their turn.
While they're waiting their turn to get up. Once again, I'm just
so Kilimanjaro at least is not nearly as high. It's around the 20,000 feet range. I think it's just under. And we took the 8-day trip, so we all met in Tanzania, and we were with a paid company because you have to be, and you're not allowed to just try to climb it on your own. And we took the longest possible trip, which is 8 days, which also costs the most, but has the most chance of successfully summiting.
Right.
The faster you climb it, of course, the more you get altitude sickness, the faster. So we all took meds to try to avoid altitude sickness.
What type of meds do you take for that kind of thing?
It's actually a drug that is meant as a diuretic.
Oh.
Sometimes people take it for glaucoma. So it gets rid of fluid out of your body, which means when you take it, you have to pee all the time. But it makes you, without realizing it, makes you breathe faster and like subconsciously breathe faster.
Oh, okay. That's
sort of the mechanism that it works by, so that you end up taking in more oxygen and blowing off more CO2. And that's what helps you, sort of like blood doping.
Okay.
But naturally just by breathing more often.
Do you start that like as that day one, or do you start it a week or two before you go? Or
no, I think most of us started it right at the night before, but my sister lives at altitude. So she was the only one who waited a few days before she started it. Because she already lives a lot higher up, and the rest of us lived at sea level.
Right.
So
did everybody do all right?
Yeah. So I think my biggest fear in going, well, not everybody had really traveled internationally a lot, and nobody had been to Africa except for me. And so it was like, I never took for granted that all these girls said yes and spent a huge amount of money and training to make it happen. And 3 out of the 5 of us have kids, not me. So they had to leave husbands and kids and whatever at home for like 16 days.
Wow.
And so it was a big burden and endeavor. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody enjoyed it and nobody had a bad experience.
Right.
And my biggest fear was that one of us wouldn't be able to make it to the top, for either because they were sick or injured or not feeling well, and that they then would never associate the whole thing with good feelings. But that didn't happen.
Everybody made it.
So yeah, so everybody practiced ahead. Like I had really been training for that 10K, so I had lots of aerobic capacity, but then I had like 2 weeks after the race to get ready. So I just started climbing up and down this tower in Qatar. In Doha is the capital of Qatar. So I was climbing up and down the torch tower where the security guy was like, yes, madam, and I'm like, I just want to use the emergency staircase. And my friend, my neighbor Kat, who I live next to there, who's from the Czech Republic, she's the one who turned me on to being allowed to go into the emergency stairs of this high tower to practice going up and down the stairs. So I put on my backpack and fill it with junk and water, and then practice going up and down the staircase.
Do you know how many pounds you actually had, give or take, when you actually did the summit?
When we did it, we only had to carry our day packs for the whole time. And sometimes if some of us were struggling, one of the porters would carry it.
Nice.
So they are really like the true workhorses, the unsung heroes.
Did you actually have a horse or anything, like a donkey?
No,
or anything?
but we had 20 men and a woman.
Wow.
Help 5 of us get to the top, which seemed like astronomically unnecessary. But then when you get there, you realize that there's no way you're accomplishing it without all of them.
It's amazing.
And so you have like a head guide and 2 assistant guides.
Did you have any come to like freaky moments where you're like, I don't know. So did anyone, or was everything pretty smooth? Or
I think there was a number of us that couldn't eat properly.
Interesting.
Also not me. I think Carrie and I ate everybody's leftovers every day.
Why? Just because of
it could be from the altitude sickness that you feel like you have no appetite. And all of us were people that definitely eat. Like we're all good eaters. So it was literally physically like you felt that you couldn't eat. It's hard to tell it's a side effect of the medication also.
Oh, I see.
So you can't really tell if it's the medication or the altitude that's making you feel that way.
Right.
But I would say like only one of us really had one day in the middle where she felt emotional and sick and unwell. But the guide was like, don't worry, because we came up and slept high that night. But he's like, for 2 nights now, we're still walking towards the mountain every day, but we're going to go back down. So you kind of go like up and then down and then like up, and then down.
I see.
And so your body has a chance to acclimate each time.
Very interesting.
So as soon as we were like 3 hours into the hike of that day, she felt normal again because we were going back down. And so you don't really have like the super high part until right towards the summit.
Was it super emotional when you were up there?
Yeah, but I think we all felt like frozen and tired and a little bit confused because there's no oxygen. And when you summit...
Are you masked up at that high?
No. But they check your blood oxygen every day, and you should be like around a 99 to 100 normally, like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And by the time you're getting towards the top, you're like in the low 80s. So there's, they wake you up on the day you're going to summit. The day before you do your full day hike, 5 hours or whatever. Then you chill out in the afternoon. Then you have dinner. Then you have a nap time in your tent, and they cook you dinner every day. They cook all the meals. There's a cook in the crew with you.
Wow.
Then they wake you up at 11 and you have some cookies and popcorn, put on all your clothes. It's like -12
11 a.m. or p.m.
Celsius. So maybe 11 p.m.
Ooh.
After you've been pretending to sleep for a hot minute.
Phones aren't working, anything that
no, and I didn't take mine.
Nice.
I just wanted to be disconnected. Those that took it mostly could not get a signal ever.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. I understood if you're like a mom and stuff that you'd want to be in contact, but mostly it didn't work.
Right.
So you're very high up, and then you get up, and it's maybe around like 12 degrees Fahrenheit near the top. It's cold and windy. And then at midnight, this is when you start your climb to the top.
Why do they do it at night?
It's a long story. So you're there at sunrise. And so you can start going down.
I see. There's a
most days you hike like 4 or 5 hours, which doesn't sound like that much, but you're walking in slow motion because you can never hurry because there's no oxygen.
Right.
So they make you walk pole pole, which in Swahili means slowly, slowly, all the time.
Pole pole.
Yeah. And we knew a lot of Swahili words then. I'd have to look back at my diary to remember them all.
I was going to ask you if you keep a diary.
I did for that. And I bought one for all of them, as we each brought each other small gifts to start, because none of the other girls knew each other. They all knew me.
Oh, you were the connector?
Yes, I was the connector of all strangers.
I didn't know this.
Most of them had never met, except maybe met my sister in passing when she had visited me.
Did you girls all behave?
Yeah, there was never anybody who got
You're too focused on staying alive.
Cranky. Everybody was good. And everyone got turned sleeping in different tents to make friends more with.
Oh, you guys were like 2 to a tent?
2, 2, and 1. So every night we made sure that everybody switched so that you'd have a little quality time with a different person.
Look at you making a little.
Yeah,
So
we had
this was
we had little games we played, and we had tea time every day, and we had some card games, and we would
no
have
one
like
lost.
story.
No one was losing their marbles.
No, not at all.
So you guys start the final summit at midnight. Holy crap.
I know I was wearing 6 layers of clothes because I was worried that everyone said the main thing is like being too cold.
Right.
And luckily, like very shortly, I was just too hot. And
Right.
then our guide, Manny, was basically like, it's 6 hours to the top, which is really one of the lengthier hikes that we ever had. You're just walking switchbacks.
Okay.
Kind of like straight up, but on a switchback fashion.
Right.
We brought 3 assistant guides for just in case. I think he's just planning in case you need to go down.
Okay.
And not make it to the summit.
And like everyone else could keep going.
So the porters don't go up to the summit.
Okay.
They stay down. And because you're not going to stay up there. You're going to come up and come back down at the same go. So we just took 4 men that worked for the tour and the 5 of us, basically. And you've got like your snacks in your pockets, but remember it's like super freezing outside. Your water in your camelback gets frozen through the straw. So you can only drink out of like your Nalgene. But hydration is what partly prevents.
Yeah, New Zealand love you. It's part of the show. Come on,
hydration is what helps you not have altitude sickness.
Okay.
So you have to keep drinking all the time, even though you don't really want to. And the drugs make you dehydrated.
And that peeing a lot, or is this?
Just we're peeing behind every rock that exists, and like taking our little Kleenexes and putting them in our little like Ziploc bag so that we don't leave a mess. Because like, take note, people, don't leave your toilet paper behind every rock. So we're peeing all the time everywhere.
Are you dealing?
But we had a toilet when we were at camp. We had a toilet man, and we loved him. We gave him tons of chocolate bars.
He's the one.
I mean, every extra snack we could come up with, if it looked super tasty, M&Ms.
Keep the toilet man happy.
Yes, his whole job was just to look after our toilet and the tent that goes over the toilet.
And he probably was the best toilet man ever.
Empty it, and carry it up the whole mountain and back down again.
God bless that man.
I mean, strong.
Did you have any issues with wildlife?
No, there's
Lions,
not many.
Tigers, and bears?
No, there's nothing really to find. We tried to find like buffalo maybe, but we didn't really. We found a few little mice things, and we looked them up, and some birds. And in the lower part, there's monkeys, 2 different types of monkeys. So we got some pictures of them.
But by the time you're like,
so at the top, there's of course nothing.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of pictures above the clouds before we ever made it up to the top. But it was very hard getting up to the top because you're just like so tired and so frozen. And the guide is like, just look at the feet in front of you. No looking to the sides. No looking up or to the back. You will just faint. So he's like, just look down. And you're walking like a step.
Poco poco. What's it called?
Pole pole.
Pole pole.
That's how fast it is. No joke. Not exaggerating. Like, picture how slow you can walk physically. That's how slow.
They make you do it. Are you guys tied up in case?
No. We're in like a little line.
Okay.
There was like one time that somebody in front of, we just would take turns.
Okay.
And so one time somebody took like a little like, ooh, and I just like grabbed their backpack, and you're not going to fall off a cliff.
I know what you mean.
In the way it's made. Right. Yeah. But definitely you could hurt yourself.
Correct.
But it's kind of like if you just stumble a little bit, remember, you're not thinking correctly.
Right.
So then the sun starts to come up, and it looks like there's like a bloodline on the horizon. Like the horizon has like a yellow line, and then the reddest, you don't really get it in the pictures, but the reddest red is like the whole way along the edge. And then you're like really close to the top. You make it to this other point that I should have looked up before I came here, because now I can't remember what it's called. And I remember thinking when we got there, like, I cannot go anymore. And then suddenly it just gets a lot easier, because it's not as steep from starts with S. Somebody's yelling at me what it's called. That point to the top is not that far, and the steepness comes down.
Okay.
So it's actually feels a lot easier for those last 15 minutes.
I was going to say, what about 15 minutes or so?
Or 40 minutes, something. It's hard to remember exactly, but
your adrenaline's got to be going
at the end.
Point.
And then you're just like aiming for that little sign, that says you've summited Kilimanjaro, and then everybody cries a little bit.
There's a lot of hugging.
Yeah. But you're trying to hurry too, because you can't really stay up there for long because of the oxygen problems.
Wow.
And you know that another group is going to come and
Right.
want to take pictures. And so luckily, I think 2 groups beat us to the top, and we got there alone.
Wow.
And so it's not like a big lineup.
Right.
And then as we were just like, we all got our picture individually, and then a couple of group pictures, and then another group of 5 or 6 people is starting to arrive at the top.
Are you
So,
up there 30
not
minutes-ish?
Oh, no, you're up there about 6 minutes, maybe.
All that way for 6 minutes of euphoria.
Just a second. So then they take you down a different path.
Oh.
So 6 hours up and 90 minutes down. And it's basically like all this loose, sandy gravel. And it's like you're downhill skiing, but you don't have skis. You have poles and you're wearing hiking boots. And you literally have to do like one side and then the other side, because your
Right.
legs are just getting trashed from trying to hold yourself. And while you're sideways, you're just sliding. You're just slide down the whole summit on your feet.
Come on.
I think I fell once.
You
And-
just slide the whole way down.
And
on the
somehow, like sometimes the guides will hold you in like the wing hold, I call it, like
Okay.
arm in arm.
arm in arm.
And they've got one of your poles and you've got one on the sides, and they help you to slide down. But remember, we came up with 4 of them and 5 of us. So I'm like, this is my trip. But
Right.
somehow it got decided that I was doing a great job on my own. So
Wow.
everybody else got an assistant to slide down the mountain,
And you're just
except for
skiing
me.
down. You really take 90 minutes to get down?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's no walking. You literally have to slide.
Rock ski.
So by the time you get to the bottom, your quads are just like
Fire.
a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you get to the bottom, it's just where you started at midnight. You're back at your tent.
Oh, I
right?
see.
You're only at that little stretch.
Okay.
So when you get
I
back
was
to
gonna
your
say, I thought you meant like 90 minutes. You're
No,
down the whole
just
mountain.
to get down the 6 hours.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then you have a little rest for an
Okay.
hour and eat some
Pee-pee potties.
brunch. Yeah, they tell you like don't lie down. You're
Oh.
on your back. You'll probably get a pulmonary embolism.
Oh, that's
So
good.
you can just lay on your side, or you can sit up for an
Wow.
hour to rest. And then, so you started at waking up 11 o'clock the night before, but you hiked that whole day.
Right.
You just had a nap. So then midnight to 6 is to get to the top. 6 to 6:15 on the top.
Okay.
You're back at the tent by 8 a.m. You got an hour to rest and an hour to eat. And now you're going to walk 8 hours
That's it?
down to the next stop. And I was like, why do we have to? It hurts so bad going down. I'm like,
did you have good shoe? You blistering? Or you?
no, a few people blistered, but it's more like when you go down for that long, your big toenail wants to come up,
Right.
and your knees really start to hurt from landing each
Right.
time. And I'm like, why do we have to walk 8 hours today? Like after we did all that? And they're like, basically because you have to get down, down, down.
Right.
Because being up high is not good for you.
Right.
So once you get down, you sleep one night. And then for the whole next morning, you walk down again and you're done. So it takes like 7 days to get to the top and like 1.5 days to get down.
That's an amazing
And everybody
story, darling.
Made it. And nobody really
awesome.
got sick. Nobody got hurt. And everybody got to say they made it to the top of Africa,
Yeah.
one of the highest peaks in the world.
Did it I think it goes without saying, but do you feel like it was did you change? Did Samantha English find a little bit more about yourself? Dig deep? Or are you pretty
Yeah.
and you're already you're a pretty rooted person,
Well,
but
I think that if you've been into distance running, at some point you've already figured out how to find those places
Right.
inside yourself, or not.
or fall.
Right. So physically, it wasn't as hard as some things that I've done.
Right.
People sometimes say it's like a walk in the park, but it's definitely not. It is physically difficult, especially the summit night is the most difficult thing I ever did in my life, was getting to the top that night.
That's a
But
powerful
I think
statement.
I'd already been in bad places mentally from physical pain in my life, in like a 50K race,
Right.
before I got there. But definitely I learned a lot about like just our friendships,
Yeah.
more so. And I
That's
was
the
just,
bond that's gonna last.
yeah, we're having reunion breakfast tomorrow morning, except for my
Oh,
sister
okay.
who's in Canada. But the rest of us are getting together tomorrow.
Really?
To have our little remember?
Yeah, remember we climbed Mount
Kilimanjaro? Yeah.
What a special, I'm just getting back from a soccer tournament and I've been playing with the same team now for a handful of years, and it's special. It's special. It means, I don't know, we've been texting. It's like we're like a bunch of little girls about it. We love it. We're like texting and we're like,
I think if you do something hard with other people, you get a different kind of thing that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And I had traveled with every single one of those people before to at least somewhere,
right,
and slept somewhere over with them. But I had not ever really, other than my sister, I had never been on a girlfriend's trip. I either always just traveled alone,
right,
or with like a boyfriend. But I had never gone somewhere where we went overseas,
right,
with people that I knew really well. And it was really,
where are you guys going to breakfast?
Really fun. We're going to the pier. We're going to,
I want to go.
What's it called?
I didn't. Funky Pelican.
Funky Pelican.
Yep.
Yeah. Because some of us have to drive like almost an hour to get here. So I just thought Flagler Beach was like the common denominator.
The central area.
Yeah.
What a special, I love that you are so aware of the fact too of the taxing nature of people having to do financial, the travel.
Just their husbands staying home and looking after
kids.
Everything for all of that period of time. I mean, you don't take that for granted.
Mm-mm.
And we had a little birthday party on the mountain.
Whose birthday was it?
It was for my fake birthday, but we went because this is my 40th birthday year. And it's just that May is a very bad time.
Oh no.
Yeah, in May. So they don't climb in May.
Did I wish you that birthday? I think I did.
Probably, yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty good with that.
So the guides had the cook made me a little cake, and we had tons of singing and dancing. We had singing and dancing every day, but we had extra special singing and dancing, like lots of pole pole. I gotta get it. They would put on like Swahili singing and dancing for us every day, and then eventually make us join in.
Of course.
But this was like an extra special one with candles and everything at like 16,000 feet. And the neighbors came over, the hiking neighbors.
Like, what's this party going on
here? And they all
you guys can't have any, you're not drinking or anything. You can't, right?
No.
Yeah. You gotta be full.
That would be bad news bears. Like that would be, I mean, I'm sure somebody has snuck it before, but you would be crazy. I mean, you would feel so terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Because
that kind of hangover.
You're already not right in the head anyway. Like you can't even walk to the bathroom quickly without being like,
right.
Like just getting up in the night to walk 20 feet to the toilet and back is like, feels like you ran a 3K, like really fast. That's how little oxygen you're getting.
Doc, where are you've got to be? So you turned 40 on Mount Kilimanjaro, technically.
Yeah, we had a fake birthday.
Fake birthday.
Yeah, my real birthday's in May.
I really enjoy the birthday I like the birthday year being somewhere different. I don't have that many, but I've got I've got Costa at 25, Italy at 35, and I like the fives. Yeah. I like that era. So I'm trying to think. Where are you? This goes without probably asking you, but are you happy? You a happy person?
Yeah.
Pretty. You got to be. I mean, I can't imagine. Are you keeping a bookie kind of thingy, diary, Sam English?
No, I keep a blog. I don't consider myself a blogger at all. But when I lived in Belize, I kept a veterinary blog. I just reignited it only because I went back to Belize. So I've been trying.
Is that where it started?
Yes.
I remember when you were doing something digitally.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did it for like 10 months when I lived there the first time, just so people could see partly like what was going on, because I had a lot of good stories there. But also just, I think that people have a vision of what life as a veterinarian is like, even in the first world, never mind being out of your element overseas. Right. And mostly it's wrong. Like it's mostly fuzzy bunnies and unicorns in people's minds. And that's generally not what goes on all day at all. And then sometimes people have it wrong from the other side too. Like I have a lot of clients say to me, they think that euthanasia probably is the absolute worst part of my job, and that would be the thing that is stressful or upsetting or makes veterinarians have a high suicide rate, or any of that thing. But that's not true. At least for me, that's not true
What's the
either.
toughest part for you, Doc?
Dealing with people. I think some people are very soft-hearted and they still struggle with things like euthanasia, even 10 or 20 years into practice. But generally, that's something that's done to relieve suffering and help people. Like, I always try to remember that whenever I have to euthanize animals that are sick and old or severely wounded, I'm not talking about people having to euthanize animals that are due to overcrowding or things where they're healthy and happy. That is a whole different stress. The times that I've had to do that, I felt a lot different about it and quite bad about it. But generally, it's something that you can offer that is part of my oath to help animals, is to relieve their suffering. And sometimes the only way you can relieve their suffering is to have them pass away. And so I just try to remember that if I'm like busy and everything's going wrong, and this is like my third euthanasia of the day, which tends to happen around Christmas, where everybody feels like around the holidays is when everybody is just done. That I just try to remember, like, even though this is just part of my normal day, this is maybe one of the worst days of their life.
Right.
And so I always just try to tell myself, like, everything else just has to stop.
Right.
Even though there's 40 people in the waiting room and somebody's calling and whatever, you just have to like give those people that time. Yeah. To just be only thinking of them. But then in 99% of cases, I just go on with my day. Right. And I don't probably much ever, I think about the ones that had drama, but right. I don't think about them anymore, because if you do that, you just get burnt out. If you were crying with people every day, all day, right. Imagine going home from work, like feeling like you put your dog down every day of your career.
It's tough.
Yeah. So you have to find a way to sort of just put that in a different spot and just let it go. It's more dealing with people that can be a lot more challenging. And I think people don't ever think about, like, most of my day is not really spent like petting your dog. Most of my day is spent trying to explain things to you.
Right.
And sometimes you're like a really nice person. And sometimes you're a really horrible person. Sometimes you're like a super smart brainiac who's literally a neurosurgeon at the hospital. I've had all these things happen. But other times you didn't finish grade 3. Yeah. And then then you have all the combinations of those things. Plus you have Dr. Google, my favorite doctor.
Like me.
Not Dr. Google. Yeah. So people also looking up things for themselves that maybe they can be really smart at the thing they do, but not really smart at medicine or maybe science. So it's easy to be sucked into something online that you don't understand, but some other person is trying to tell you like, this is what's going on, and then trying to re-explain to people like that's probably not what's going on, just because I've been doing this for 13 years, plus I went to university for 8 years. So those things are I think the things that are a lot harder to, like, I still really enjoy being a vet all the time, but I do see people like classmates and community where when people ask like who would do it differently, a lot of people would have not done it if they'd really understood what was involved in the day-to-day. Yeah. And one thing about living in Belize is that it's a nice relief from not being in such a like litigious society where every ad isn't about suing your neighbor or wherever it was that you tripped and fell. Which is like, since I got back here last week, I'm just like, oh my God, was it always like this when I was here? But every single ad on TV and on a billboard is asking you if you'd like to sue someone. Yep. And so that makes your doctor and your dentist and your vet and everybody have to practice differently and act differently. Whereas in Belize, and to an extent in Qatar too, that part of our culture doesn't really exist.
Right.
People, if they have a good feeling about you and they come to trust you, then they're just thankful you did your best, and they also listen. If I say, like, you need to leave this dog here with Miss Ingrid and it's going to be here for a week and that's it, then they're like, see you later, doc. Thanks.
Trust you.
Thanks so much. I'll give a call to see how things are going.
Right. No fighting.
Right. There isn't as much of like having to work through little tiny details.
Sell the mission to the owner.
And a lot more of just like people just being thankful that you are doing your best,
right,
and trusting that you are as well. I got lots of second opinions there, though. I mean, in Qatar, I had definitely had people feel like where they went, maybe they didn't feel the best,
right,
and they wanted to either hear the same thing from another person or find out that maybe the first thing wasn't right at all.
Right.
But once they get to that person that they have a good connection with, then they're just willing to work with you.
That's a tough thing to do, though, because I've known Adam as long as I've known you, basically, and Adam still to this day takes care of me from a physician standpoint, being my chiropractor. But Adam as well as I do too. It's not just the chiropractic care; it's his holistic outlook on life, etc. But I'll tell you what: when I first started to see him, and I would go into his office, and I thought my arm was going to fall off,
right.
And I'm like, "Yo, dude, you don't understand, like, this pain," and like you almost kind of get upset because of the stoic nature of the physician or whoever it is, and you're kind of like, bro, I said it's like going to fall off. And they're like not even like looking at you, or they have their routine. I remember it took me, I'm still getting to learn how to just chill. And if I have something that, whether it's a pain or I pull something or I get hurt and I go see him, now I know I deliver what's wrong.
Yep.
If he doesn't freak out, which is never anyways, if he doesn't freak out and he does his little tests, then I come home and sometimes Camille will act like how I would want to have acted. She's like, well, what was it? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I think I'm going to be good, though. I said, I have a tournament next week. He said, I'll be good. I got to do X, Y, Z. But I've learned to just go on the kind of follow his demeanor,
yes,
and follow his instruction.
Well,
and
I think that there's health professionals. You don't always get along with everyone. Every doctor has their own style, including in being a veterinarian.
Sure.
And we have our own personality
right.
to begin with. And so just like you don't get along with every person you meet in soccer
right.
or at the gym or in running club, you also don't get along with every client that tries to be your client.
Right.
And sometimes that's from the doctor's end, and sometimes that's from the client's end. But it's a free world. So you can kind of
right.
decide. You don't have to struggle through that. Even within the same practice, sometimes clients prefer a certain doctor. And that's usually people generally don't know what kind of medicine they're getting, whether it be human or animal,
right.
because they're not in that field. So most of what they go by is bedside manner and the feeling you get from someone.
That's a good point.
And so if you don't really get along with that person, or you haven't built like a little relationship with them, then maybe they just aren't your person.
Right.
And I've definitely had cases where a person wants to see a different doctor in the clinic normally, unless it's an emergency. And I've also had people that I don't want to see them
right.
unless it's an emergency or it's mutual.
Yeah.
And it's not like every day,
right.
but it's just like in life too. So if I could express anything to people as far as going to the doctor or going to the veterinarian, is to try to, if you're the type of person who likes to know what's going on, I'm the type of doctor who likes to make sure people understand what's going on, but there is a whole segment that don't want to know. When you say like, oh, is your uncle sick? And they're like, oh yes, it's the something. And you're like, well, what's actually going on? I don't know. Did anyone ask the doctor? Yeah, no. So that's not me. Like, I want to understand.
Right.
I want people to be informed. And some people don't want to be informed. They're kind of like, stop explaining. Like, just tell me,
yeah,
here's the pill.
What do I do?
Is there a pill for this? Because I don't want to hear your
right.
scientific talk anymore.
Right.
So some people want to know and some people don't want to know. But if you're a want to knower, you just need to find a person who likes to explain things.
Yeah.
And just behave yourself. Like
gotta behave.
You probably aren't the expert, no matter how many times you read Google the night before you came in.
But it says on Google Doc.
And so it's good. I think you need to find someone that you can find trust in and like get things explained by, and kind of be careful of the sources that you go to outside of that, whether it's like a Facebook group that's telling you that this is the best thing to do, or your neighbor, or Google, or whatever it is. Because you have to have a professional that you trust enough that if they say that's not right, that overrides all of
pretty much all of it,
the lay people.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel that way about your vet, then you need to find a new one.
Yeah. I know Camille knows this about me. I will not, if I have any kind of ailment, whatever it is, I never Google it. Ever, ever, ever. I will never I used to when I was young, like when a WebMD and all that just started to come out, and I was like, I'm dead. I'm dying tomorrow at noon. I've got whatever rare bat disease it is. I
actually generally don't either. Like even for my own health reasons, even though
scary.
I know what I'm looking for or understand what I'm reading, I also am not a human doctor, or I'm not an expert in like the knee or whatever is hurting. And so with very few exceptions, except I did go around once for a week with a really painful sort of itchy rash thing. And I was like, God, this hurts way too much, like just to be normal. And so finally I just hit up the Google with like, because I didn't go to the doctor.
Oh, you're
and
gonna
I was
die.
like, severely painful itchy rash. And within about 3 minutes, I was like, oh, I have shingles.
Yep.
This is absolutely what's wrong. So then I went to the doctor and he was like, indeed, you have.
You did. It was shingles.
I did have shingles. Yeah.
Oh.
So I am
like
sort
from
of
stress.
It sure is. It's from having chicken pox as a child and then being run down. I think I was marathon training. So
you're always pushing yourself. Why are you dehydrated right now? You're training right now?
No, but I was running this morning and didn't have enough water because I was trying to hurry up and get here in a timely fashion.
You did good.
I did okay. Yeah.
This is where we announce where you're staying.
In Flagler Beach.
No, I was excited when you did really good. You kept in touch with me. I was sad though because Camille said she was going to dinner with you, and she's like, "You want to come?" And I'm like, "No, because I will ruin the show." But I really I hadn't. This is the first time I've seen you in what 3 years?
No, I came to visit in the midst of living in the Middle East. So in about 1.5 years ago, I came for like 10 days once.
And I got to see you.
And I saw you guys once or twice.
Oh yeah, didn't we go to dinner or something?
We went to dinner at the Lion.
That's nice. See, we're friends.
Exactly.
And I keep in touch with you digitally. You always like all my stuff.
Yep.
I love you for that. You make me feel special.
Because they're like, I feel very honored to come because I feel like I don't really fit into the mold. I'm not anyone's boss. And I don't live in Flagler.
We're gonna have to delete the show then. I didn't know any of that.
But
no, I have my second kids show on Friday.
Oh.
So anyone who's apprehensive to come sit in the seat, I've had a lot of people go, dude, there's no way I'm coming on the show. I have nothing to say. I'm not important. And I'm like, bro.
Somebody already asked me, what are you going to talk about? And I was like,
Were you worried about what we were going to talk about? I've had people, they say,
I'm sure there's going to be questions.
I didn't know it wasn't so. I never know what I'm going to talk about, but I had plenty to.
He's like, I have a little itch, and I don't.
They're really so happy to probably be.
I'm not really that interested with what you're saying.
He's gonna be really happy that mom's home.
What? Your mom is home.
But no, I tell people it's good. It's just, did you enjoy it? I mean, we see.
Yes.
And I think
so. Hopefully, I'll be.
Stop. That's mother.
I have to mention.
Yes.
My final volunteer position this year, after we go to Africa for the 2-month safari trip. I'm going back to visit my sister, and then I'm going to the Cook Islands for a month. Cook Islands are like in the middle of nowhere off of the eastern coast of Australia by like 6 hours. So it's not on the way to Hawaii, but it's sort of
I'm familiar with this little land.
Between Australia and Hawaii.
It's like
if one is down here and one is up here, it's sort of over down
And isn't it
here.
like that big on a map?
I think it's, you can't see it on the map.
No.
It's their main island is Rarotonga,
Mhm.
and they're their own country with multiple islands, and they depend on New Zealand for some things like their currency. And they have
When is this?
Basically the whole month of October. I'm going to live there for 1 month as the.
Have you been already approved or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the ones. One of the ones
It's
I
really, really
picked.
tough.
So the outside is like kind of looks like the Caribbean beach,
Right.
and the middle of the island is like a mountainy, volcano-y looking thing. And the whole island, I think, is about 20 miles circumference, so it's not very big.
Mm-mm.
They have a clinic there with some supplies and drugs, and a couple ladies that keep it going, but they don't have any staff full-time.
So you're going to be working there and living there for a month?
Yes. They have like a little staff house next door. And hopefully there'll be a vet nurse from some country who volunteers at the same time as me, because I'm not bringing my own. And so,
what's the language there? Do you know?
English.
Okay.
People there look kind of like Pacific Islander people. There's CrossFit.
Of course, there's CrossFit.
Which,
Doc.
I have to make sure I mention
sure.
that I am not I've been doing it a long time, but I'm not a good CrossFitter. I just do it because it's fun and like community interaction. And mostly I run alone. So it just gives me, when I'm living in a country, I mostly run alone, 90%. So it just gives me a way to be a little bit social. So that'll be the end.
Cook Islands.
At the end of the Cook Islands, which I've never been there, and I've never been to any of those places, like Fiji's out there, Tahiti's out there, lots of others that I can't remember, but I haven't been there at all. So
Doc,
I have a month there.
I could run into 100 people today and ask them if they've been to the Cook Islands. They're going to say no.
Most people have not heard of it.
Yeah.
But
very
unless
hard
you
to get
live
to.
if you live in
You have to
Australia
sail there,
or
don't
New
you,
Zealand,
at some point? You can't even fly. I don't think you can fly into it.
I am flying into it.
Really? You can?
Yes. Yep. I'm
On
flying
like a
direct.
Cessna.
But most people fly through New Zealand.
I don't think there's like a full blown airport though.
It has an airport. I'm just not sure of the size of the plane it can accommodate, but it's a long flight. So it can't be a tiny puddle jumper because the flight's like 6 hours and it lands on the northern tip of Rarotonga. You can also fly there from Tahiti. And I think Mick's joining me at the end and he's flying there indirect through New Zealand, but I'm flying there direct from Sydney and it goes like 3 days a week or something like that. And then at the end of that is when we start working again in Australia. So the end of that is the end of the trip.
Babe, we're going to have to go to Australia with the doc. I really do. I carry that.
She's already packed. My mom said she's already been saving to come and visit me.
Yeah, that's a big one.
For the past few years because the flight, even I've never flown there from here. Just flying there from the Middle East, it was like 14 hours direct. Painful. And then the second time I went was like a split flight through Hong Kong and it was long.
Are you self-medicating for those long flights?
Sometimes I take a Benadryl.
Benadryl seems to be the one.
If I'm going to have like overnight and I want to sleep, then sometimes I do that. But I did have an experience once on an airplane where a girl took an Ambien between JFK and Dubai. And I was flying alone to Thailand and she was with a group, which note, if you fly with other people and one of them turns into a crazy person, don't just abandon that person.
Abandon Ambient lady?
I thought she was flying alone when I was like at the very back of the plane.
She freaking out?
She's like a crazy person. And I had gone for a nap and there was an empty row behind me that was meant for like the crew. For landings and stuff. Right. So nobody was allowed to be there. And when I woke up from my nap, there was a person sleeping in that area. And I was like, maybe she's sick. Right. But when she woke up on and off and nobody visited her the entire way, and she was like maybe like 30, like I just thought she was a solo female traveler like me. I mean, screaming and yelling and having to go to the bathroom. And I thought she was working her way towards like a seizure. And I was already thinking in my mind, like, if there's no human doctor on this flight, then what are we going to do? Like, I wonder what drugs they have on the plane in the emergency kit. We can call a doctor, like on the sat phone. Will we have to give her like something IV? I wonder if they have Valium. I'm going through all these scenarios in my head because I think that she's having like,
How many hours were you into the flight where she starts to freak out?
she would freak out and then fall back asleep and then freak out and like get up, walk around. A flight attendant would bring her, like strong arm her and bring her back and tell her to go back to sleep. And she would lay back down and go back. I never knew what was going on because I missed the beginning. So right before the landing, a friend shows up and she wakes up and she says, why am I sitting by myself? Like she didn't remember any of the people taking her to the toilet, nothing.
Those drugs are no joke, man.
And then her friend says to her, they made you sit over here, remember? And you took that Ambien? And I like could not stay silent anymore. I turned around and I said,
lost it?
No, but I turned around and said to her, is that what's wrong with you? And she just looked at me and I was like, sleeping pills. Is that what did this? And she was like, what happened? And I was like, wow. You were like a crazy person. Don't do that.
She was
again.
Coming out of her psychosis.
Yes. So I think maybe she had just tried it for the flight, but maybe hadn't taken it before.
Yeah.
So
I don't play with that stuff.
Don't abandon your friends and don't try things when you're going to fly for 10 hours.
Benadryl your go-to?
Yeah, because then I just get sleepy.
My physician won't let me take the whatever, man-made stuff.
I've never really tried any of the other things.
Well, we tried. It doesn't work.
I had a Valium once when I had laser eye surgery, and I didn't feel like anything happened, probably because I was so stressed from having the laser in my eye. And otherwise, I haven't ever done any of those other things, but I know that Benadryl makes me really sleepy.
Benadryl, we do that sometimes, which sucks. We stopped doing it now, but when we used to travel with the dogs in the car, we would Benadryl them, half of them. And then we stopped doing that, and now we do the CBD. We seem to have figured out the right potency. If we give them like 2 CBDs a little bit before we go, they seem to kind of chill out.
I don't, as much as I travel, like I think I'm at country 30 something.
It's amazing.
I'm not afraid of flying at all. Like I can sleep through the takeoff, no problem. But I just don't really love it because you always feel sick. You always eat the food that's weird.
Yeah.
And sometimes I try now. I'm not really a big germaphobe, but I have found that cleaning my hands a lot in the airport and the airplane has really cut down on me having the
sniffies,
airplane sniffies when I get there. So like every time I'm in the bathroom, every time I'm near anything.
All the time. Never
wash
touch
the hands,
the face.
wash the hands. Yes, exactly.
That's another one. I can't stand when I see the people that I'm traveling with and I'm like, don't touch your face. You can't touch your face. That's my thing.
Even if I go to like try to like dampen my face to like cool off and stuff, then I wash. Every time I'm with the soap, I wash my hands.
Wash the hands. Do you know what I've learned? I always used to get sore throats whenever I would be sleeping in a bed that wasn't mine for some reason. If it was the air conditioning in that place, the atmosphere, I don't really know. So I figured out could be a placebo effect, but I put a pot of water or a bowl of water. Never happened again. But also too, Camille holds me to like, I think we have like intravenous sanitizer when we travel. Camille's like,
well,
she hooks me up.
Traveling is also very dehydrating.
Yeah, that's true.
I used to always she comes by 20 times with like water. Do you want water? And I would just be like, no, because then you have to pee and you have to get up. No, now every time, besides the excessive hand washing, is that every time she offers you another water, even if you have to put it in the back of the seat and drink it in like an hour, you have to take it every single time. And if she offers you, like if you want a soda or something else, you ask for a water on top of the other. Like sometimes I like getting tomato juice or something. Also get a water and make yourself finish it. And I notice those things do help me.
When are you going to kick the Coke?
Quite a bit. Yeah. Well, don't tell my mom, but like.
Camille's very disappointed in you. For those that don't know, when you book the show with me.
It's not real. I put down Coke Zero was the drink that I wanted.
You get to pick your drink when you come on my show.
I go through stints of like not drinking any for a month. And then because I sometimes realize like I'm having too many Coke Zeros. Sometimes it tastes really bad overseas too, depending on their water and where you are. It's
You're a
not
Coke
always
Zero,
the
not
same.
a diet Coker?
Correct.
Yeah.
But admittedly, probably not my healthiest habit.
So you notice I put it in a nice cup for you and I didn't let people see that it was a soda.
I know, but then you told everyone.
Well, I'm sorry. I had to do it, John.
I actually, one of my favorite parts about coming to Florida is you can order unsweet tea.
Oh, is that like not
a thing anywhere else in the world.
you're
Maybe in other states.
What's the unsweet tea or half? I had a half the other day. It was way too much sweet half. Did you go straight unsweetened?
Yeah, sometimes I put sweetener in it myself, like I concoct it at the table. Sometimes I just leave it without.
Okay.
But generally, iced tea in the world is sweetened. So this is like already
like
done.
that.
Yeah, that's like one extra choice you get when you come to Florida.
That's what keeps us seeing you.
Yeah, it's not the beach.
It's not the pelicans and the beach.
It's not the golden lion. It's the unsweet. No, it is the golden lion partly, which I haven't even been yet.
You haven't done it? We'll have to line together. When do you leave?
I do need it at the end of the month to the Dominican.
So I have
another full week and a tiny bit still left. And I front ended kind of all of my
obligations
because you want to be able to make sure that you saw people and not
do you have anybody
find out
on the
that
to-do list?
You missed them. Yeah, I still have a few people that are already booked that I have plans to meet up with or etc. I had lunch with Jordan yesterday.
I heard you saw the doc and the baby.
I did. I saw Adam walking on the beach with the baby. Yeah. I had lunch with Jordan Farrell yesterday. I've had multiple CrossFit sightings of some of the ladies and the guys there.
Have you CrossFitted since you've been home?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Of course.
But they moved to Banal.
They did.
Yeah. CrossFit Bearcat was the one that I belonged to that used to be in Flagler Beach. So I've gone out to Banal 3 times and they were kind enough to have me. So that was nice. So
I saw Frank Zetter crew and all them.
Yes, but owned by Jody and Kat. They're the owners.
Yep.
So they were kind enough to let me come. And
remember the lady that used to run the box to Flag? Is she around anymore?
Yeah, we're friends on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah.
What was her name?
Tish.
But
she lives in Eustis now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. She I wouldn't fight her if someone paid me.
Maybe she's watching.
Hey.
She might be.
She was awesome.
That's what got me into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I've been out running I went to speed work that Carrie has one night a week. So I saw some ladies there and I saw one of the lady I know's husband there. And then been out running a bunch of times with Carrie, a little bit with Jessie.
I don't know Carrie. I feel bad. I should know her.
Yeah.
She want to come on the show.
I think you do. Maybe you just don't realize you do.
I'm like, oh, duh.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I've definitely, I go to Publix and I see my old neighbor. I see people from my old gym, and I haven't been to Publix yet that I didn't see somebody that I knew. So it's kind of like small town.
Yeah, not much changed.
Yep.
A little bit.
I've had some lunches out and been over to visit and went out with Camille.
Yeah. Camille,
so
you guys.
It's been a very good visit, but I try to make sure that the ending is like not as busy in case maybe I have a chance to hang out with someone again. Or yesterday, I just spent the entire afternoon on the couch watching television while it poured rain.
Yeah, we got hit with that big storm.
So, and I've been lucky enough to stay at someone's house that is really, really nice. Yeah. And so I have like a nice view and lots of room to run around.
You know, if you want.
Got the couch right there.
You're more than welcome. Exactly. We have a futon in there, believe it or not, in my office.
It's changed a little bit since the hurricane.
You haven't seen any of this.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's all new.
Good.
We've kept it super simple. You wouldn't even know who lives here because we're ready for the next one now.
You ready?
That's why I have my cinder blocks if you want any.
Okay. In case I need to throw someone in the ocean,
I can tie it to their come over. Like, so what you building?
Can tie it to their ankle.
And for those that know, I have a pallet of cinder blocks there. They're always like, they've gotten used to it now. I feel bad. At least it's tucked away.
My only disappointment, which is nobody's fault, is that A1A is under major construction to repair from Hurricane Matthew.
No, Irma.
Okay, after I left.
Yeah.
So I can't really be upset because I know they're trying to maintain my little town, but it is exactly during my time to visit that a lot of my A1A running it's
done, girl.
Cannot happen.
You can. We've been walking it.
Yes, but it's a challenge down south to run through the middle of the construction zone in the little thing they deem the sidewalk, which is in the middle of
the road,
which is kind of fun because you feel like you're running down A1A. And I'm sure people passing in cars, it looks like you're running through the construction, but they put up little barriers that then blow down in the wind. Then you have to try to not fall over them.
That's true.
So it's not the best situation, but I'll be back many times.
We should be done.
They're building the
sooner or later.
seawall and
Yep.
repairing and making everything
Just in time for
stronger.
hurricane season to blow.
Yeah, or
No, I'm just
A1A is
kidding.
going to fall in the ocean.
Some point.
Some point, it actually probably will.
Yeah, but I feel that south side's pretty. We've been the commute. We've been walking from here to
Yeah, she
Oceanside.
told me Oceanside.
So when we get to that side, it does get a little freaky because you're like in the road.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's kind of fun, but the cars are coming at you. But they're going so slow that I just have to be ready to.
It's not that it's dangerous. It's more just like you could, if you're trying to run, it's more like a tripping hazard.
That's true. There is a lot of
trying to
stuff
jump
in the
over a
street.
variety of items.
Yeah, but you can handle it. Look at you, Doc.
I tried.
But I did tell you
I'm
this
not a trail
earlier.
runner.
You look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
I like when you
do my
it's
hair.
Like yeah.
Oh,
It
it's
was so-
special. It's a special day.
You come running in.
I washed it first of all.
Sam comes walking up. She goes, "Let me in quickly." I go, "Who's coming in?" She goes, "No, my hair will frizz."
It's like,
It is
it's
women
like
have to deal with that in the
95
summer.
degrees and humid outside.
Yeah,
That's the one thing about living in the Middle Eastern desert is that it's not humid except for 2 months of the year. So it's
you
like
get your perfect.
it's super dry heat, kind of like Las Vegas,
Yeah.
until about August and September. And then winter comes there about November 1st. And then it cools off until April 1st.
Okay.
And then, so you do get to enjoy like a colder time. It never freezes, but
Of course not.
you could run in a thin long sleeve. It gets that cold.
Okay.
Could wear jeans and a sweater, maybe.
Or are you enjoying your Africa heat here? You enjoying this?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, when I
love
got
it
to
like
Belize,
this.
it was like this basically. So
I want
I'm used
this.
to it.
We're hunting for.
It's a bit humid,
Yeah, I love it though.
but
I want it.
it's just, I wish it would have a few days now of not pouring every day.
I think we're going to hit again.
But I think before I came, it was hot every day with no rain.
Yeah, in the very like a couple. It was weird. It hadn't. The
was
rain
dry.
didn't start
Yeah.
usually as early as it usually does, and now we're getting that.
But now it's just the typical Florida summer where
Yeah.
it pours rain every afternoon. And when you're not at a job like me, then you really notice it. Whereas before, I was always like in a clinic during those
Didn't notice
rain
it.
times. So it doesn't really affect you. You go to work, it's sunny and nice, and you come out of work and it's sunny and
Yeah.
nice, and you see a few puddles on the ground.
Like, oh, right.
And you're like, oh, right. And then they said there was 3,000 lightning strikes in Orlando this afternoon. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Stupid Orlando. You see what the funny thing is? Orlando's an hour away from Orlando. You heard that yet?
No, but
pretty good.
I-4 is a disaster.
Oof. We just drove. We had to go to St. Pete, and you usually have to go through Orlando for the quickest route. I said, nope. Taking the country roads, even though it was 30 minutes longer. I didn't deal with I-4 and deal with the mess.
But it's still nice to be home.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like this is like my second home.
You give us the home title.
This is my only non-Canadian home.
You feeling it?
Yeah. 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Like I was only a baby before I came here.
Will you see Cheerios again before you go?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Cyrano.
Take a little visit up to St. Augustine again.
Good.
Give him a little bit of loving.
All right. Well, we did good, Doc. Look, 12:30. When did we start?
10.
Yeah. See how fast
People are
they
going to be
go?
like, oh, it's so much talking.
Well, people sometimes go there like, oh, so how long is the show? Like 20, 30 minutes before they come. I'm like, you'll be surprised. But
Well, it flew by. Thank you.
You enjoyed
very
it?
much. I had a great time.
when you come home, because you're going to be Australia indefinitely, though. Like that's because we don't have
Now, I would say for at least 4 years, we'll be living in Australia.
that. I'm not kidding you, too. You know, we're going to have to come. I'm going to dread that flight, but I'm going to have to come. And when we come, we'll give you enough time to set up camp.
Okay.
We're going to want to know what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
Watch out for.
I already like, I'm thinking when the first person comes, I need to already sort of know, when you have a visitor, you want to know something. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to show them
Of course.
around.
Mhm.
So you need at least kind of like a year to
No, that's what I'm saying.
get your own bearings
I'm going to let you marinate for
as
a while.
like a tourist before you start having people.
Yeah.
But one good thing about even I found in Florida is that when people come, you probably find this too, it makes you a tourist. So
Little
sometimes they want to do things that you hadn't done yet.
Kind of, yeah.
So there are definitely things that I saw or did here that were probably only because
You were
like
showing people it.
someone came to visit and they were like, hey, can we go to the such and such?
Yep.
And you just hadn't done it yet.
Speaking of which, I want to go. I had a dream last night that I was swimming, but like in a very, very big, vast body of water. But it was like a spring. So I was like, we got to go to the springs. I don't go to the springs as much as I should, being
It's
that they're right
chilly.
there. It is chilly, but in
But it's fun.
Africa heat, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're going to
Absolutely.
be springing it up soon.
So I think people from here should think about going to Iceland.
Iceland.
My friends Chris and Christy from here are in Iceland right now.
The Doyles.
Yeah, and they asked me a little bit about it before they
Yeah.
went. I got to have dinner with
They're
them
all
at
types of excited.
Breakaways.
Chris had his birthday out there.
Yep.
Yep.
And there was Zach and Julie and
Yep.
their son, and it looks just as amazing
The
as when
photos
we
do
were
look
there.
amazing.
And also think that people should try to think about going to Petra in Jordan.
Oh.
This is like one of the 7 modern wonders of the world,
Okay.
which caught me off guard. I went alone. Mick wouldn't go. He already went. He's like, I'm not paying to go twice. And I didn't really want to go, but then
What's the wonder of the, just because it's a biblical?
It's like Indiana Jones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look it up, it looks like that. And it's if you have a more adventurous spirit, because going to Jordan obviously is a little bit more than going to the Bahamas, for example. That's the other place that I would recommend to people to think about going to. Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
also a Muslim country.
Yeah.
Also fairly safe. Has a few sketchy neighbors. As far as like instability goes.
Right.
So sometimes you got to stay away from the edges. Same thing with going to Lebanon. You know, you're not going to walk over the border to Syria.
Right.
Because that's not okay.
There's no Publixes in Syria.
That's correct. And also they would prefer if you stay away from the zones of, yeah, exactly. But we went to Lebanon. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff and they speak French.
Yeah. I have to tell you, if you're listening to this, just follow your Facebook. They can just friend requests you. Yeah. Let people see your travels. Well, are you posting it in your blog too now?
No, I only post in the blog if I do like a veterinary.
Do you have an Instagram?
Veterinary. No, I don't have it at all.
Really?
But I'm gonna
you would have this crazy Instagram.
I think I'm gonna post a blog maybe about my time in Dominican and the Cook Islands, and maybe I'll make one as a kind of a review of the trip to Africa because it involves animals. I try to keep the blog only having to do with my career. Okay. And a little bit of insertion of travel if it's in the midst of the veterinary stuff. So I try to make it 90% veterinary. But sometimes I would put a few travel blogs in there. Like when I lived there.
How do you save all your photos? You must have tons.
I'm not very good at technological things.
You're just keeping it all inside?
They're like in my phone. Some of them are saved in like a Gmail. Sometimes
so they're everywhere.
Mick backs them up to a laptop. I just figure like if I post them on Facebook, then at least those ones are safe.
Right. Well, in theory, they might be gone one day.
Yeah.
I lost all my videos of the first quarter of the trip in Italy, in Barcelona. I came home, I at least got to show my grandfather all of his old neighborhood. I walked around.
Oh, yeah.
And he hasn't been there forever. And I figured this, not for the sake of showing it online, but for him to see. So yes. I got to show him once.
That one didn't get, and it was gone?
Went to go see it again because I just got home and I was like, I'm going to reminisce. And I went to go look at them because I hadn't. And for those that have a phone that tapes in 4K, turn it off. Turn it off immediately. Because 99% of the general machinery that you probably own, if it's not 4K compatible, when you go to migrate that data, it doesn't convert.
Oh.
So I didn't know that. And I had like 3 different timestamps of like all my data. So I looked at and made sure like, oh, well, the number reflected how many I had originally backed up. That number did not include everything from all my videos from Barca.
Oh, and then you erased them?
I erased them. They just didn't convert.
Oh.
Well, I erased them from the phone thinking that they were on 3 different devices.
But they weren't at all.
So I have to, I dealt with that. Literally, I
don't really make videos generally. It's really rare that I make a little video.
I do the videos because I'm notorious for my videos. I'll go like, I annoy her. Well, for those who don't understand, Camille. That's who I'm pointing to. I'll annoy Camille with always saying like the start of a day. Like I zoom in on the date and time on the computer and then I'll say, babe, like something obnoxious. She'll be doing something of serious nature, like cooking or doing something. I annoy her, get her attention. I make her say the day, the time, where we are, why we're there. And it's for my home little, this time a bazillion years from now, if I'm still alive, I'd look at them. But I lost them all, but whatever. So I think it's kind of cool. You're just internal. Anyways, it doesn't really matter.
If I go on a like a long special holiday, then I keep a journal.
Oh.
But and then I can reread it again later. But it's really rare that I
You have a lot of
do
dark
that.
moments in the journals, or are you pretty? No, good.
Oh, pretty good. And then I try to make a few posts on each holiday that we take so people can see just like what it's like there. But I tend not to post like 40 pictures because I know that people won't look at 40 pictures. So if it's like that, then I tend to break them up. Like I sort of broke up the Kilimanjaro into, once we came back, I made a post about each day. And then I just picked like 3 pictures just from that.
You know how to satisfy your audience.
Well, I don't know if I have an audience.
You know what's a really good photo
I know people
of you?
like to see the travel stuff.
A really good photo that I almost used, but I knew you'd probably get mad. But it's just good because it's like kind of candid. You are looking at like a really huge margarita or something, a frozen drink.
In New Orleans.
Yeah, but you look great in it. And I almost use it. I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't, or this
maybe not an alcohol
the
picture.
size is like, it's like
it'll look like I have a problem. It was a tamarind flavored margarita.
But like, it's a really good candid photo of you. And that the hair is glistening. And I was like,
but the picture of me and the dog is just a selfie. I just took it's hard to get a good picture, as everyone knows, like with your dog.
Yes, very
so if you take like 30, one of them might be.
Yeah, he's all types of being.
He's a little bit of.
He's a pug, right?
He's a French bulldog.
That's what I said.
But he's a little bit fuzzy in the picture, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Because he won't stop moving as I'm trying to take the selfie. But I got like at least 1 or 2 that was cute. And sometimes he'll yawn or stick his tongue out. If you can get one of those where you don't look like an idiot.
He's in the thing. Exactly. He's got his tongue out.
Or a tooth or something.
It's live shot.
Yeah, I try. Anyway, thank you so much
You're
for inviting
welcome, Doc.
me.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad. I didn't know if you were going to be into it.
I'm glad that my fam at home gets to they don't usually get to see me.
Yeah, I wonder if we didn't get kicked off the second time.
In Qatar, you have to have a VPN to get online, and generally it doesn't work.
Look at you. You know what a VPN is.
Well, I learned there trying to circumvent the blocking, but I rarely got it to work. So eventually you just kind of give up. Yeah. So I hadn't really seen or talked to in person like my friends and my family for a couple years, other than messaging. Yeah. So it's kind of cool.
I do thank you for coming, and I do thank you for always loving everything that I do online too. You make me feel very special.
Yeah, I'm always very proud of you.
I'm very proud of you. I am, and for those that listen and enjoyed the show, there's not much to follow because you have to think, what is your blog? Can we post the blog on there?
Yes, it's because I don't have my own domain. So it's Vet Tales and Island Adventure at .wordpress.com.
You did do the
like Vet Tales is like a dog's tail.
I see what you did
there. TAIL. So Vet Tales and Island Adventure.
I'll post it on the thing once we go live. Well,
so I have one new one, and I have like maybe 18 or 20 older ones that all have various adventures. Some of them very graphic veterinary photos. If you don't like that, there's always a warning. Some of them funny, some of them sad.
I almost posted that photo too.
Some of them
the one that you're cutting,
explaining being a vet. Some people don't like that though.
I know. I didn't do it.
My nieces love the gore, so I always have to include a few for them. But yeah, if people want to go and look, I always like it when people go and read it because I try to put a lot of hours into making it funny or heartfelt. Well, I love you, Doc. Bam. Yeah, I hope we got kicked off on the first one, but that's why this Facebook makes me angry. It seems to be always a